we're fine. No issues. No issues. Yeah. Is everyone's volume is all right? Stream will let me know if if people are the right volume. If anyone's quiet, let me know and I can turn them up or everything. But we should be fine. Yeah, so welcome into episode 4 of Size Matters. We should be on the roll now. Today we're going to be having a feral based discussion. So we're going to be talking with these gentlemen, just discussing where feral's at in kind of 9.0, how it's launched going into Shadowlands, and how we feel it's doing in 9.0.5. Which isn't really a major patch, kind of just like a little mini one, and then looking forward then into 9.1 and what we might be able to expect. So I'm just going to kind of ask you guys one by one, so starting with you, Hippo. How have you been finding Shadowlands launch thus far? Have you been enjoying the expansion? And not just for Feral, but just, as a whole. You've been enjoying the expansion?
Yeah, hot take. Apparently, I actually like this expansion. It's very fun. I have a lot of hours played, a lot of alts, which is like a new thing for me. I never play alts, but this expansion in particular, like playing other classes is fun again, and you can actually play more than one class without being burdened. But yeah, Druid's fun. The systems are great, especially Valor. Wish it was better, but that's about it, I guess. Big fan.
Yeah, sounds good. We could touch on a little bit more on that as well, like with the Valor and stuff. Like, I'm sure we could dip into those kinds of things. It'd be interesting to hear you guys' opinions on those systems. But yeah, then Guilty. What about you, my man? How you been finding it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the game. Feral's good. I'm stuck tanking in M+, but we're chilling. Yeah, I think the expansion's mostly okay. There's a few little niggly things, but launch has been good. The raid was mostly good. There were a couple of bosses that kind of just suck dick, but for the most part, it's been pretty enjoyable.
Which ones in particular, out of interest?
Stone Legion Generals.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, man.
No surprise there. And what about you, Snupy? How you feeling?
I've liked it a lot. I have 5 druids, so I have actually,
Psychopath.
I have been enjoying it. Yeah, enough to like make 5 druids. Like arena wise, it was very fast paced, but I feel like the past few weeks is kind of slowing down and becoming more damp, which is not a good thing in my opinion. But overall, it's been good. It's been really good.
Okay, that's good to hear. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I think in general the expansion's looking good. I think there have been a few, I don't want to say like mistakes, but maybe oversights and whatnot that Blizzard has made. Like Hippo, you mentioned the Valor system, for example. Like for me, I think if they'd released that on release, or if they'd waited a bit to release it until like 9.1, it would have been really cool. But yeah, I think overall, I mean, the raid's been pretty good. Guilty, you touched on Stone Legion Generals, which I think most people have struggled with. But I think in general it's been a pretty good time. So talking about 9.0 then. So how do you guys think we actually performed? What do you think kind of propelled Feral forward? Was there anything that you think Feral particularly did well in 9.0? Do you think we, have kind of started well with that? And we'll start off with you on that one, Snupy.
Yeah. Like since like there's 2 covenants that people played like usually, or before this week people start playing Necrolord the past few weeks, but it was Kyrian and Naife, and these 2 kind of performed in different ways, but both are like really good and worked in different comps for arena. So overall, like we've been really, really strong. Like there's been plenty of ferals on like high rating. I don't know like what else would really make us perform better. I think like we're all biting now. Like I have like 40 to 50% percent of my damage being from bite, which is kind of just there's so much bleeding happening.
That's the same for raiding and M+
Yeah,
as well.
it
It's
is.
pretty across the board, yeah.
Yeah, so like one thing that maybe would be nice that people would like is like more rip damage, but people are going to Necrolord now and playing like more of a bleed build, so that's kind of happening. But yeah, overall been really good in like this whole season, and ferals are performing well. There's like many. I think there's like at least like 10 ferals in like the rank 1 cutoff right now. So
is that like is that a rare feat? Is it normally a lot lower? Are we seeing, is that double, triple, 10 times the normal amount that we see? Or
I think it's slightly higher than
it's pretty
than
different
normal,
season to season.
but
10 is reasonably high. I remember there was a Legion season when there was like one feral who got rank 1.
I don't really know like
EU.
exactly how many are actually. Let me double check, okay?
Yeah, for sure. No worries. And Snip, I actually want to, whilst you checking, I want to ask you a follow-up as well. You mentioned obviously the ferocious bite heavy play style that we're currently, using. with Necrolord, does that change quite a bit? I know obviously I've heard people going with that rot build. Are you seeing like what's kind of the damage? Do we have a percentage difference? You know, like are we seeing where normally it's 50% of your damage is bite and then it goes down to like 20 and most of it's rip, or like
Yeah,
you know,
Around that, yeah, it's
so, like,
significant.
yeah. So you don't play Fearful Symmetry, you play Drought or like Circle of Life and Death, which already kind of chops away from your 2-3 bites like every go. And then you also play Lunar Inspiration instead of Sabertooth. So then you also just lose out on some flat bite damage there. So like the damage breakdown I've seen, I'm leveling my Necrolord Druid now, so I haven't tried it too much myself. But it's like Moonfire can be number 1 often if you keep it up on 2-3 targets or just 2, and then you have Rip and Rake and like maybe bites like there somewhere. If you play Circle, then you don't really have time to like actually bite too much because he's got to maintain the bleeds. But
that
from what
sounds
I've
familiar.
seen, from what I've seen, they're playing Drought though mainly to get that extra single target bleed damage and just rot them down. And
some people are
like
playing Savage Raw.
Yeah,
really in arena.
Yeah.
Wow,
I've seen that as well.
Just relying heavily on just bleeding everything. It seems pretty chill.
Yeah, that seems like a cool play.
It seems really fun. It's so different too, and it's quite nice that there's like 2 play styles that can work that are so different. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting my my 5th Druid to 60.
I was gonna say, yeah, you gotta like split your time effectively. You're like, ooh, I've heard of this
so
new build that sounds interesting. Let me get my 8th Druid on it. I'll play it eventually.
I mean, yeah. It's that. Or there's an NA Feral Druid who I swear to God has swapped Covenant like 12 times this expansion. He's a lunatic. Like he's even been Venthyr twice.
Oh my goodness.
Like absolute psycho.
Yeah, that is that's degenerate gameplay for sure. What about you, Hippo? What's been what have you kind of felt has propelled Feral forward, if anything?
Well, problem me, I'm oppressed. I'm not allowed to actually play Feral Druid in my guild. And I'm not allowed to play Feral Druid in my push group for keys either. But I do mess around with it in like heroic raids or like early mythic bosses. Lower mythic plus keys like 18, 20s, something like that. And it's weird because it shares the exact same strengths as Balance Druid, just like a notch down, which is like it's super strange to me. Because they don't have trees, they don't have Enervate, and the damage is like slightly less in some areas and like maybe more in others. But Feral is like a solid melee and Mythic Plus right now, but like who's inviting a Feral Druid? Like it's always the community perception thing that like, man,
who's inviting
it's
melees,
so bad.
to be fair.
Yeah, like melees, yeah. Like I don't know if you've ever played a melee in a Mythic Plus Keystone this expansion, but it's bad. a lot of anti-melee mechanics, but like Feral Druid has long arms, like Outlaw Rogue.
Yep. I think
so like they have that going for him at least.
I think, and we can kind of break this down in a little bit as well, because I think you've touched on some really good points there. But I think a lot of people don't really realize what Feral can do. So like some people be like, oh, it's storming, so we don't want melee this week. But it's like, nah, you can bring a Feral. Or like, oh, it's spiteful, we don't want melee. And it's like, no, you can absolutely bring a Feral, and we're gonna perform really well.
Feral.
It's so unbelievably good.
Playing First Strike with First Strike and Predator on spiteful, you actually do so much damage. Just Feral.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think by convincing people or kind of by educating people on what we're able to do, I think that could definitely help us in some content, especially something like Mythic Plus for sure. But Guilty, what about you, my man? What have you got to say?
I've been enjoying Feral. I think a hot take I have is that Feral is actually just the second best melee in Raid and for Progress in particular. I think everyone who ran a Windwalker should have run a Feral Druid instead, but obviously Trill is kind of good at Monk, so it kind of makes that okay. But yeah, I think Feral's insane in Raid at the moment. I think it's okay in M+, though obviously I'm in Guardian Druid jail in M+, so yeah, I think the spec is good at the moment. There's things that I wish it did differently. I think it's kind of hard carried by Convoke at the moment, because Convoke is an insane button. Just gives us burst for like the first time really in the last 3-4 expansions. So that's cool. But,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to touch on as well what you said there. So you mentioned about how Feral's like, you think it is I mean, you say the second best melee, you think arguably the first and whatnot. And I mean, we've seen when we look at Warcraft logs and whatnot, and we get the stats, and we see Feral's actually performing pretty well. And I think it is actually let down by certain fights like SLG, which actually brings its numbers down. And that's something that you kind of discussed previously as well, Guilty. But why do you think people kind of missed the boat on that one? Why do you think people did they overlook Feral? Did they not know? Did they not realize?
I think they 100% overlooked Feral.
Okay.
I think basically people went through beta, they didn't pay attention to Feral. It got hard memed every time it was brought up, and then nobody looked at it and was really like, "Huh, this actually does damage."
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was the same. It's the same for druids as well. Like I know a load of ferals who went through beta, like complaining about how awful feral was, how it does no damage, yada yada. And I'm sitting there like, are we looking at the same beta? Because the spec does so much damage. Like, and it got a few buffs which helped it out towards the end of beta, but I don't think it was ever in a bad position in beta. And I think a lot of people felt it was in a bad position for some reason, so it didn't get paid attention to.
I think Feral is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You go on.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think Feral is one of those specs where unless it's like in your face, like we do big damage, or you know, it has to be really obvious that it's strong, or I think a lot of people miss the boat on it, and I think that's probably just what potentially. But I mean, I even found when I was doing, so I did one split run with pieces when Heroic Week just came out, and I was actually, I mean, okay, yes, I had a legendary. Some of them didn't have legendaries and whatnot, but I was like topping meters on some of those fights when we were doing Heroic, and I was like, yo, this is pretty strong. Like, this feels pretty good right now, and it felt really, really solid for a lot of the fight designs. I think something that we'll get into it later as well when we touch on legendaries. I think the only thing that annoyed me with Feral in Raid is the fact that we need like 5 different legendaries like throughout all content. So like people went Apex, and then you draft, and then you got to get a little bit of circle action in there, and then I want to do PvP. Let me get my symmetry out. It's a whole thing. But we'll kind of circle back to some of these topics. What do you guys think held Feral back? Do you think that there was one overwhelming thing that you know, kind of let us down, or you know, within reason, is there anything that you think could have, if it had been slightly different, push Feral into the forefront? And again, Hip, I'll come at you with that one if that's cool.
Did you say my name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, unironically, Balance Druid existing, it has the same damage profile, just like at ranged. It has the same niche, uncapped AoE, but it's better. And melee spot doesn't help it at all. Even though like melee this tier was really bad, it was not good. It was like Death Knight did okay damage. It was brought for AMZ. Windwalker did really good damage, but it still didn't beat like Warlock, Moonkin, Mage. Like range superiority in like raid specifically is like ridiculous, because a lot of these fights are super melee unfriendly.
Windwalker Windwalker did insane cleave damage, but its single target was like, it had good CDs, but it was thoroughly average.
Like arguably Feral has better single target than Balance, like consistently. And I would say it would, especially because like the Balance Convoke windows are super RNG based on like Star Surges and like Full Moons, even if you're using like the double unuse build that's popular right now. And Feral, their Convoke, you can press it every 2 minutes. You don't have to wait every 3 minutes. That's big bonus, especially in like keys. But it's definitely, I think it's one of the better melee. I definitely think it is good. There's like the problem with like the multiple legendaries being needed. Like a lot of classes have that problem. So like it's not, you can't just like say that's why they're not brought. But I don't know. It's definitely. It was good this tier. It just wasn't played because SLG was the hardest fight this tier, and Feral's not good at SLG.
So, I think Feral is spectacularly bad at SLG. I think it's better with Frenzy Band. I think people are sleeping on Frenzy Band.
Yeah, Frenzy Band is actually really interesting, but I think we'll bring that up later.
Yeah. I think SLG is definitely just the worst Feral fight in the instance. Maybe tied with Council of Blood, because that's pretty bad as well. But
SLG is fun because I spent, like, I personally, I'm sure it was the same for you guys, I personally spent like the whole raid tier getting like top 3 DPS. A lot of the time I'd be like, you know, right, like number 1, like say Shriekwing and like Zymox and whatever. I'd be number 1 in the group, and then we get to SLG and it's like everyone just completely forgot about that, and they were memeing me for like being shit, like doing shit damage. I'm like, guys, come on, like don't, it's the fight, like come on. And I was battling against the tanks for like lowest DPS. Honestly, it was pain. But yeah, what about you, Snupy? What do you think in terms of what's kind of let Feral down, maybe in that kind of PvP scene?
I think, as Hippo said, like at least in RBGs, just the fact that Boomy is a thing makes Ferals just not the first pick. Like Ferals are pretty good. Like I can do RBGs on my Druid and perform well, but if you're, you know, if you're a 210 Boomy, or no, I mean Feral, they're gonna take a 205 Boomy instead of you probably. You know, like for the average player. But if you have like really good gear, you can probably get into some groups. But for most ferals, I think they just cannot find groups, and they're being held back by other specs or Boomy being better in RBGs. In Arena, I think we've done really good, and there's not much to really complain about in that front. But yeah, for RBGs, and I guess that's the main thing where we're kind of held back by this Boomy existing.
It's kind of
Which
just
is
ghetto rogue as well in RBGs.
Yeah, true. It's like feral's like a scuffed rogue, and if they're getting a druid DPS, they want to Boomy. So it's.
Do you guys think, and Guilty, I will come to you in a second, but do you guys think, touching on I mean, it's a recurring theme here. Do you think the biggest thing that's holding Feral up is the existence of Balanced Druid as the preferred Druid DPS spec, and then the fact that the other niche that Feral can perform of having stealth and being able to, kind of have control. You've got things like Maim and Bash and whatnot. You can do quite well on control. You got Dispels and Soothes and stuff. Do you think that then we compete with Rogue on the other end of the spectrum? So it's kind of, why not just bring a Rogue and a Balanced Druid, and then you have everything that Feral can do but better? Do you think that's kind of what we're battling against here, or not quite so much? Guilty, I'll come to you.
Are we talking in the context of Snoopy's question here when he's talking about Arena, or are we talking
kind of.
just in general context?
Hippo, we're discussing about Raid and stuff, and he's going, oh well, balance. Feral's doing well, but balance exists, and so even in Mythic Plus.
I think for Raid, balance is just ranged, and ranged is just the best utility in the game, just being ranged.
Yeah, that is so true, man.
So I don't necessarily think it's being held back by balance, because I don't think you're ever competing with Balanced Druid for a spot. Because Balanced Druid takes a ranged spot, and if you can take a ranged over a melee, you will take a ranged over a melee on 90% of the fights. So it's not, the fact that balance is good just isn't relevant to me, because I've never been who comes in this fight, the Balanced Druid or the Feral Druid, outside of Stone Legion Generals once. So I don't think it really impacts it. I think what holds Feral back from being taken is literally just there aren't many people who play it at a high level, is the first thing. And secondly, specifically talking about Raid here, there aren't many people who play at a high level because they play things that are more consistently good. And it has a bad rap. Also, raid buffs fucking suck for Feral. It's fucking awful. Because half the melee bring raid buffs, or AMZ or something. So I was just I've got Stampeding Roar. Anyone?
Which then your Balanced Druid can do anyway, so it's not even
So my Balanced Druid can do now? Why can my Balanced Druid do that all of a sudden?
The fact that Feral did not get Innervator Trees and Stampeding Roar was given to Balance is such the disgusting thing that happened this expansion.
Yeah, for Arena or RPG, I think Feral is insane for Arena, and for RPG, it's just Spec Guardian. I don't know.
I do think this is the first time in a while where you can't really compare Feral to Rogue, for once, in a raid environment at least. Unless Rogues play Sin now, which I think they might start doing it, but Sin has the similar damage profile to Feral. It's a 2-minute burst class.
Sin is basically Feral. It has an immunity, but it has much worse defensives outside of its immunity.
But Sub and Outlaw just do completely different things than what Feral does. I think that in keys, it is Rogue utility over Feral utility if you have a Druid. But if you Druid, you need every top Mythic Plus team or whatever, you have one Druid, because Druid utility in keys is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, also trees. Trees are fucking disgusting.
It's disregarding
insane.
trees at all, even.
Yeah.
If you're ignoring trees and Innervate, because you play with a Holy Paladin, that spell doesn't exist. Disregarding trees at all, you need one Druid in your group no matter what, in my opinion. And that can be a Feral Druid, but it's gonna be a Balanced Druid this expansion.
Yeah.
And past expansion, in BFA, it was never a Balanced Druid because balance sucked in Mythic Plus. But it's super broken now. Resto used to be the Druid choice, and then in Legion it was also Resto or Balance. But I do think in BFA, Feral was the better DPS spec in keys, but now it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's what I said about
Feral does in keys. It's not even remotely close.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunate,
sorry,
but it is what it is,
But I do think Ferals do have a place in RBGs. I don't do many RBGs. I pretty much only play Arena. But the few times I have done it, if you play Convoke, you can go to a base, use Maim Convoke, get trinket, and then you go back in like 20 seconds, just maim clone, and then you can, cap on a
Yeah.
clone. So you can kind of like play the part of a rogue too, like really well. I think like for some reason like a lot of people in my community too will send me a picture of like them signing up to RBG, and then they tell them they ask like which spec, and they feral, and then instant decline, and like this happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's the classic. It happens in PvE
Yeah.
as well. But yeah,
But
I agree with you
it's
though. I
actually
think
pretty
Feral
good.
can be good in RBG. I think I played up to 2400 this tier, mostly as Guardian, but
Yeah,
I played Feral on some maps and it felt okay. It just
yeah.
Guilty.
I think just that's like solo roaming is insane.
I'm starting to think that Guilty, actually, your Guardian main that's like disguised as a Feral Druid, you know what I mean? Like, I think you like RPGs, you like it, Raid, you like it, Mythic Plus. I'm pretty sure you do World Quest in Guardian, dude. Come on.
I do the more in Guardian sometimes.
See?
Exposed right now.
See, getting
I'm just in Guardian Druid jail, man. It's crazy.
So, okay, so looking at that then, I mean, in general, you're pretty happy in PvP with Feral. You don't really think there's too much that could have been improved on. And in general, I mean, Guilty Hippo, you're just saying, yeah, Feral's doing well. It just isn't a balance. It just isn't ranged. And I mean, is there anything that we could do to kind of, like you said, I mean, we don't really compete against balance, but then when balance is strong and you need a Druid in Mythic Plus, you're going to take it. Feral doesn't bring a raid utility. I mean, okay, I'm going to ask a big question here. Leader of the pack. Yes.
No.
Okay.
No.
I was heavily against Leader of the Pack because I think that raid buffs are a bad idea. And I think that having raid buffs attached to singular specs are even more of a bad idea. But you know what? Honestly, at this point, I'm so into the fuck it, whatever. If they're gonna give DKs AMZ for zero reason, like just yoink the disc priest utility, if they're gonna fuck it, give us Leader of the Pack. I'm beyond caring at this point. Like,
I mean, it
if
would.
you're gonna keep doing this, then fine, whatever.
You could like tie it to Wind Fury, except Leader of the Pack will give you way more damage because like it'd be a party-wide buff, I assume, like Wind Fury is, but it would also auto slot a Feral Druid no matter what every raid.
Yeah. I agree. I think it would be stupid.
It would be ridiculous, but like I mean, at this point, when
AMZ
exists,
why do they add AMZ?
And then
what is this?
Chaos Brand exists, Mystic Touch exists,
DK
Innervate
has
exists.
utility. They have grip. Grip is already insane. You just take DKs for grip.
It's very funny that Feral Druid doesn't have Innervate yet, because like Innervate is a raid slot almost every tier, no matter what. It's like auto slot because they balance Disc Priest around Innervate for some reason. So just balance your auto include. Yeah, I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah,
I think raid buffs are bad. I think it would be a bad idea. Snupy is obviously just used to having Leader of the Pack.
I was just gonna say, I was like, Snoopy's real quiet on this one.
I already have it. I don't know what to say.
Do you even take it in all matchups?
Yeah, pretty much. We also did like 10 ferals in RBG, and then it stacks 10 times, so it's like insane.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Wait, what?
That's crazy,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh my! I know it stacks in arena because like we've done some double feral twos, and we're like, oh, well, I got excited about the double stack, but wow,
the 10 stack is actually insane. You could everything. If you could like if 10 ferals convoking with 10 leaders, it's yeah, we have like a good win rate. We've done like probably 5 game system. I think we won 4 of them.
That's
maybe that is the secret to feral is like. Well, dude, we with that pack mentality, right? Like when we're a lone cat, we're weak.
Where are you
finding
by
10, and then suddenly we're strong. We got to hunt in packs.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like when you all stack together and you're all you have that momentum. You're all speeding around, going around, biting everyone, convoking everyone.
Everyone's tiger dashing.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, Guilty, I think I'm definitely with you. Like, because I remember in beta, and I was like, nah, because if you give Feral Leader of the Pack, that's going to guarantee us a raid spot, and, Druids are already well represented in raid, and then you're going to have to take us to Mythic Plus, where potentially you're going to have a Resto Druid healer, and then a Feral Druid as well. Like, is that fair? And I was going back and forth and being like, and I don't like raid buffs. I think it's, I think they're silly in this day and age. And then I'm at a point where I'm like, nah, I want it. Give it to me. I'll take it. Just give me everything.
Raid buffs are stupid. I hate raid buffs. It's awful design. It's terrible. I hate it so much. But at this point, fuck it. Like if they're gonna stick with the philosophy of it, then fine. Give me Leader of the Pack.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
let's take it.
I'll take my raid spot. I'll do it. It would mean I'd have to do things like Stone Age in general, which I kind of enjoyed not doing, but
Man, let me tell you, Stone Legion Generals broke me as a
yeah,
human.
you had. I remember. It's still not as good as
422
your
wipes.
fucking.
Oh my
Your Argus
goodness.
clip is the best thing ever.
The Argus clip, yeah. Listen, passionate gamer here.
All I can say,
Oh.
man, is my guild killed Stone Legion in like 130 pulls, so maybe we're like better than you guys actually.
Yeah,
Disregard
I mean-
the fact that we had more gear and also the fight was nerfed. All right, let's.
Just, yeah.
Dude, the current Stone Legion Generals is so nice.
Yeah.
Like after 7 nerfs, holy.
I mean, it's
What a
still an
dream.
awful fight. It's just marginally less awful than it was.
Oh, yeah, it's not 13 minutes long anymore.
That's true.
Yeah. It has
Do
definitely
love a fight that's
improved.
30 minutes.
It has definitely improved, but I know it's obviously still tripping some people up. But Hippo, actually, funnily enough, I've got a question now for you. So
boy.
I'm kind of leading on from what we just discussed. You're not actually predominantly playing Feral, so obviously you're playing Balance and Raid. You are pushing Mythic Plus as Balance. And you're what, like 3K IO now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look at this. I mean, yeah,
Shut up,
maybe.
man.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
I
I'm
think
like
it
the
starts
8th
with a
best balance
3.
druid in the world. Like, I don't
Eighth?
really...
Only 8th?
Dude, China is so good at the game. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
life is
no.
being ruined by Yo Mama DR.
Don't mention that guy, please. Okay, that guy is on his 9th druid this expansion, by the way. Let that be known.
Is he like Snoopy's dad or something? What?
I
how is he...
have no idea what he is doing with his druids, but every single push week it is a new druid. Every single time. It is so
Little,
strange.
Little Banneroo, maybe?
Well,
Yeah,
I
maybe.
mean, anything's possible when you share accounts, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, as somebody who's like, predominantly playing Balance but wanting to play Feral, oh god, what was my question, dude?
I don't know,
Shit.
man.
What's
Hold on,
holding
I
back?
broke it apart. Yeah, how have you perceived Feral so far as how Feral's performing now compared to how like historically how it's been, and what has it been like for you in your guild trying to, have you been trying to be like, hey, on progress, were you like, hey guys, I think Feral's actually pretty good for this fight? Was it a conversation that was had, or were you just very much like
There was one time when I asked to play Feral, even though I didn't have a legendary, but I still thought it'd be better, was a Council. Because I was Convoke and I only had Boat. But it just ended up that Balance Druid the single target you doing 0 damage to the bosses didn't matter, because all you had to do was kill waiters. So like it just didn't matter.
Okay.
There never was a point this tier I was like, oh god, I wish I was Feral Druid right now, because like the fight that excels at the single target fights were all unimportant besides Sludge Fist. But Boomkin, yet again, is better than Feral and Sludge Fist, because it not only is it range, but it does more damage. But it is one of those things that you can do the same damage as Feral or Balance, like whatever spec, just because like your CDs are better. I think that Feral on Prog is one of the best specs you can play because of how tanky it is, especially with well-honed instincts being in the game. Like Feral is unkillable in raid. Like you have to fuck up so hard to die.
Oh, I will.
But
I'll find a way.
I mean, yeah, you always find a way. But there's like certain keys that I've thought like Feral could be better here, like Theater of Pain.
Yeah,
Plague
I
Fall.
found that. Mhm.
Just like random keys and like experiencing of like pushing high as Balance Druid and then going like a little low as Feral, and to be like, if I'm doing a 25 Plague Fall, I feel like Feral could be better here for like random scenarios, because like you get 2 Convokes here, you get instead of 1. It's like stuff like that like Feral could be better, but like it's impossible to know because like they're never gonna let me play it, right?
I think Theater of Pain is a big one.
Yeah, I think
interrupts are
Theater
so
of
big in that
Pain
dungeon.
is a crazy good example, because like I don't know if anyone has ever done Theater of Pain as a Balance Druid. It is like miserable. Your
Yeah,
cooldown,
it's
like
so
you are forced to sit on a 3-minute cooldown for so long always.
Yeah.
The pools in that dungeon are terrible for Balance Druid, but they're all good for Feral because it's like these small condensed packs that you need a lot of CC for, and then it's a bunch of single target bosses. Like it was mainly just like the single target boss thing. Like the entire Zavwing, I can do nothing as a Balance Druid because I have a 3-minute cooldown. But like as a Feral Druid, I play Sabretooth. I'm somewhat more useful in this keystone than I would be as Balance. But the other thing in Theater of Pain, trees is also really good. So like
Yeah.
it's one of those things that like You give Feral trees, instantly it is the best melee in Mythic Plus, like by far.
I think trees are like the worst in Theatre of Pain
Yeah.
compared to other dungeons.
Well, it's literally. I would agree. There's like some like Necrotic Wake where trees just like outshines everything
Yeah.
because it's so
Yeah.
broken. But there's definitely keys where it's just like, oh, I don't want to play trees here. So like I could also play Feral in this dungeon. And Theater of Pain would probably be one of them, just because of like the consistent single target. But back to Raid, I'm not really sure. Like I've played it in Raid, like on the easy mythic bosses, like 1 through 6, and just like it's good. It's good on single target. Like yeah, it's really good. And then like Huntsman, it's also really good. But it's melee, which is like the worst part about Pharaoh Druid is that it's melee. It always comes back to melee, melee, melee. You have 2 of these in your raid if you can. Like ranged is the best thing you can have in a raid.
So what you're saying is they need to buff our balance affinity by like 1,000%.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
that's what I'm hearing.
Hot take: I hate the boomboxing, like the Sunfire weaving. I hate it so much because even when I get to play Pharaoh Druid, I still have to go into Boomkin form.
Yeah,
it is so bad, man.
I was playing with JB the other day, and we were doing some keys, and obviously he's playing Resto Druid, I'm playing Feral, and I have to weave into balance to do like Sunfire weaving, and then he has to weave into Convoke, and we're just both looking at each other like, bruh, what are we doing,
I did a DOS
man?
key the other day as Feral, and there was like 30 mobs, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna Convoke and Balance Druid and get a Starfall because it's more damage, and that feels so bad. That feels so
fish
bad.
for the full moon. Fish for the full moon, dude.
Like literally.
So to clarify this for Snupy, because I'm sure Snupy is aware of this,
yeah.
but in PvE Snupy, you play Balance Affinity and Heart of the Wild, and whenever you run out of energy, you shift into Boomkin form and you apply Sunfire, and then you go back to cat form.
I've heard about this. It seems so like it seems so lame to do.
Well,
like,
yeah, previous expansions, Moonkin form has had a 1.5 minute cooldown for this reason, and they removed it, and it instantly became a problem. So like I don't know, like you remove it, Feral is just like 3% worse than it could be. So like, what do you do? It also adds even more uncapped AoE.
You know, my two most like the thing I find annoying about it is that it's like you say, it's like a 3% increase. Like over the course of a dungeon, it'll do like an extra 3% damage. But it's you have to really execute it well. Like you need to make sure you got your Primal Wrath up, your your Primal Wrath up, your Rakes up. You got to be low on energy. You got to make sure you're not gonna not proc your Blood Talons, so you need to make sure you set up for that. Then you need to shift in, get the Sunfire. Oh, I missed my kick now because I'm a chicken instead of in cat form. Now I gotta go back into cat form. Like, it's so jarring, and it's for like 3% increase on damage, and you're still bottom DPS in the run anyway, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know, man.
It's a lot of effort.
When my DK calls my interrupt, I'm like, nope. Not happening.
Yeah. There is actually a really interesting Pharaoh Druid build with Frenzy Band right now that I want to try something, because I swear it would be broken. You play Incarn with a Night Fae Priest, and you just have 2-minute Incarns with Frenzy Band. I feel like it would be really good, but first you have to find a Pharaoh Druid with Frenzy Band crafted and a Night Fae Priest.
You also need
one of those things.
You need 2 Night Fae Priests.
Yeah, it's like,
because weirdly, I know that it seems like Frenzy Band would have good synergy with Incarnation, but actually you lose damage swapping from Soul of the Forest to Incarnation.
Do you actually? Yeah, I've never played it because like I have to fucking save Soul Ash for whatever next tier in case they don't cap it. Did you guys see that they uncapped Soul Ash, by the way? Can't wait to never make a legendary again.
Yeah, enjoy that, dude. Enjoy that.
Fuck that. I'm still making legendaries. There's so many legendaries I want.
Dude, yeah. I can't. I like safely cannot make a legendary. It's so annoying.
Bro, you're gonna be using Boat until the end of the expansion. Shut up.
Dude, what happens when Necrolord is meta? I already have Circle, I guess. I don't know.
When Necrolord is meta, I will eat my own shoe or something, dude.
Balance.
I don't know. Well, yeah, for balance. Yeah, for balance, maybe. Yeah.
There's no universe where Necrolord is better.
Dude, if I have to go carrion for a raid tier, it's lights out for me. I'm just gonna go join some US 500 Golden One.
I was gonna say you're suffering from success, man. That's your fault for like trying to be the best. You know, you got to deal with the consequences. But
it's like it's super. The last progression boss I killed as Pharaoh was Lady Ashvane, because I still play balance in that guild. But that was God, how many tiers ago now? 4, 3, something like that.
Yeah, I think 3. Yeah.
But I played it that boss specifically because the Pharaoh Druid single target was better, and I had an ink pod. So like if anyone knows how Ashvane works, it was like the ink pod was very strong. You had like Blood of the Enemy with the Jungle Fury crit. It was strong. That was the last time I was allowed to play Pharaoh in Prague. Miss it every day.
Do you have a
Been in jail ever
wallpaper of
since.
Lady Ashvane up in your room?
No,
and
I
just
actually
letting you just-
hate that boss. That's one of my the bosses that owned me the hardest because Upsurge is the hardest mechanic in the game.
Yeah, dodge
I
the
just farmed that
sword. I
one
don't know.
actually.
What was
For
that? Sorry,
the-
Snoopy.
I had to farm that one for the tank trinkets for PP.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That was
oh,
my
the
God.
Razor Or wait, what even was it? It was
The
Yeah,
Reaver
it was.
Room.
I don't remember the
The-
name.
it just like you took less damage from,
It
Yeah.
was
or it healed you
The
when you took
urchin.
damage or
Yeah.
whatever.
Something urchin.
was-
Yeah.
Urchin, yeah. It was that
Bloodstained
one
Urchin.
in Sport Pods. If you had both of those in 475, you were unkillable.
Oh my god.
That was I didn't get both in max though, so
When we killed that boss, I accidentally had Guardian loot spec for the first time.
yeah.
'Cause I was trying to help our tanks get a trinket from like the
Accident.
boss before.
Oh, I accidentally went guardian
Yeah.
again. Oops.
And I got
Uh,
like a max Titan forged bloodstained urchin, and then I never got Razor Coral.
Typical, huh? Yeah, and I think I was the last person to get the coral. Like, I think even the healers in my guild had it before I did. Like I think like a Mistweaver had it, and I didn't have it yet. And yeah, it's a whole thing. But Snoopy, I want to come to you, my man.
Mhm.
So you've been playing a range of covenants. Obviously, we've discussed the fact that you've had like 9 different druids so far this
Yeah.
expansion. How have you been enjoying that variety? Has it been a fun time for you? Have you been enjoying them? And within that, what's been your favorite combination? Like, is there one build that I see your YouTube videos, man. Like, what's been the build that really gets you going? What gets you out of that bed?
So ever since like early beta, I was always convoking. So I've been like a sucker for convoke since the beginning, and it always satisfies me to get like like 2 maybe 18k bites like back to back, and they just die in like a second. So just going like full convoke, Sabertooth, Feral Frenzy, with Fearful Symmetry, legendary, it's very satisfying. I think now like the Necrolord build might be like my new favorite once I should get this rid up with Gear. Kyrian is kind of boring to me. Like Kyrian, like most, if you check like the ladder, like I'm the only druid in like I think top 10 maybe that doesn't play Kyrian. There's one that plays Necro now, so Tony's like Necro.
Mhm.
Actually, more people are actually re-rolling it right now. I'm seeing, but like Kyrian, everyone was Kyrian, and it's really good and like very consistent. But it's kind of boring. You just like get a flat damage buff and like a little pot you can chug. While Knifey has a blink and convoke, which is of course very fun to use. So for me, Knifey is the most fun. Kyrian is really really strong and also nice, but it's kind of boring. And Necrolord seems to be kind of more of like the old school bleed and just rot him down build. So I think that's gonna be very fun as well.
A
yeah.
follow up to that. What style do you prefer? Right, because I think if you probably ask Hippo, Guilty, and like pretty much any PVE feral, we would all say, bleed style any day, right? We like the spinny plates.
Yeah.
But what about you? What's your favorite arena or RBG style?
Yeah. Like
like the
I
big
never played
bites?
feral like back in the day when it was like all bleeds. I like people also like telling these stories about like back in the day it was like so much bleed, just like run the whole game, and I didn't play feral back then, so I don't really know how that was.
When did you start
so-
playing Feral, out of curiosity?
So like I played as a main since BFA season 2, so I'm pretty new. But I did play like a lot of like private servers back in RAF and
Naughty boy.
Kata, yeah.
Oh my
Had to be done.
God.
Had to be done. So like I've tried it before, but I'm definitely like more accustomed to like just biting people to death. So and like BFA was PV trinkets like dress and bike and
Yeah.
like this is kind of what I'm used to. And now it's like convoke. It's still kind of like the same pressure. So I'm just like used to that, and I do like it, to be honest. But I do think it's a very good thing that we are seeing like more of a bleed build now to kind of mix it up a bit, because having like 50% bite damage is quite like it that shouldn't be the case in my opinion. Even though it's fun,
Yes.
but it's
I think finishes are overtuned compared to generators in general.
yeah.
And CDs in particular are mind-numbingly overtuned across the entire game.
That's very
Yeah.
true.
So like it's sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Snoopy.
like it is nice to see like the highest Frelger now on NA at least is playing Necrolord. So it's like You know, it's clearly something that's happening, and it's really strong. So I think like just in the next month, maybe we're gonna see way more of like this kind of build, and I think it's like a really good thing. I'm gonna stay Night Fae on my main because you know I just love convoking, but yeah,
Dude,
it's good. It's
Snoopy,
good.
imagine if you'd started playing Feral earlier, maybe you'd be like 4K MMR instead of 3K, you know? Like, what could have been, man? You're low 3K, huh?
I don't think it works like that, brother.
It's something like that, I think. Yeah, it's something like that. Hippo, were you going to say something a moment ago? Or are you good, man?
I don't remember. What were we talking about?
Oh, don't even worry about it. We're all good.
Yeah,
Hippo has,
probably
Hippo
nothing.
has like a 30-second attention span.
Yeah.
That's true.
he's playing like Scribble.io or something on his other screen. Guilty, what do you I know you just touched on there about an interesting point. You said about how our finishers are like way overtuned in comparison to our generators. How do you, it feels like Blizzard tried to go, oh, people want more bleed damage, all right, we'll buff the finishers, will buff rip, but consequently they just buffed Ferocious Bite, and now Ferocious Bite is doing a lot of our damage in most environments. Do you think that they went overboard with the tuning on our generator? Because I mean, we lost Wild Flesh Rending, our swipe is now target capped. It seems like they've really, you know, crumpled our generators.
I actually don't think it's an issue with the generators themselves necessarily, or with the generators and finishers themselves, the baseline tuning. I think the issue is primarily in talent. All of our strongest talents basically affect finishers almost exclusively, which is what drives so much of that. So Blood Talons is finishers only, Soul of the Forest is finishers only, Sabertooth is finishers only, and most of these primarily affect bite. But I think that's basically it. I think there's just a load of talents in the tree that only affect generators or only affect finishers, which means that if you move the tuning on either generators or finishers a tiny bit one way or another, then it snowballs out of control and just drives the damage breakdown severely. So, like, if you look back at Antorus, the Burning Throne, where Hippo played Feral, because I remember he played Feral.
Oh my god.
Because we had nice conversations about him losing. But if you look at the damage breakdown there, it was very shred driven. And if you look at the talents we played, we swapped from talents that primarily affected finishers, like Soul of the Forest. Well, we did have Soul of the Forest because of the ring, like Sabertooth, stuff like that, into talents that primarily affected generators, like Moment of Clarity, Savage Roar, Incarnation. And if you look at the damage breakdown there, it's really shred heavy. So Blizzard have kind of just put themselves in this position where they can't tune it, because if they buff either one of them a slightly bit, then it just woof all the way over to one end or the other. It's like a delicately timed seesaw. If you just shift to whip weight, then it just shoots everything into the stratosphere. So it's kind of I don't think it's an issue with the spells themselves, but more so the talents. And I'm not quite sure how you'd fix it. I think you'd need to severely change how you construct a talent tree, which I've talked about before. Like, I don't think talents should have so many damage options in them. I think talents should primarily be utility options, and I think that gives you a lot more choice in what you pick, because utility is like something you can actually choose. Like, if you look at the tier 3, the last tier of talents, where it's Moment of Clarity, it's Feral Frenzy, and it's Blood Talons, you basically only ever take one of those because it's just the best in whatever content you're doing. Whereas if you look at the tier that's Wild Charge, Renewal, or Tiger's Dash, if you look across logs and you look across PvP, people can take any of those they want, because they actually have different situations where they're good, they're better based on personal preference. I think DPS talents are just kind of boring because they just result in what is the best output.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, I know I definitely have a meme in my channel about like, oh no, they're a Wild Charge gamer and stuff, and because I think Tiger Dash is the superior pick, but
okay, well, I actually think you're 50-50 in this lobby at the moment, because I know Hippo is a Tiger Dash gamer.
Okay, that was like BFA beta. Tiger Dash is like the best thing in the world.
Yeah, you go.
I don't really like it anymore.
No, don't shy away from it, Hippo.
I don't really like it.
Join me.
There's so many things that Wild Charge can do now. Like in Mythic Plus, there's a lot of like random Mythic Plus utility with Wild Charge. So I don't know. Maybe you disagree.
No, I do genuinely think Wild Charge is really, really good, but it's just like a bit of a meme, because I know that Tiger Dash is like, I don't know, it's good. The reason I like Tiger Dash is because I have a slow brain, right? And I am gonna stand in something, and then go, oh shit, I'm in something, and then I need to like get out of it quickly. And if I have to like target my friend and shift out a moonkin form because I'm weaving, and then like wild charge to them, I'm just dead. So I'm like Tiger Dash, and I'll just zoom out of the way, so it's good for my slow brain. But no, I think
Displace your beast, man.
yeah, displace
Bro,
the
you have
beast.
soul shape. Shut up.
Yeah.
I'm Kyrian, man. I don't have soul shape.
Unluck, dude. Unluck. Yeah, I think Guilty, you make a good point, and I think in general, Druid actually does have a decent talent setup. I mean, we have 3 rows, I believe, that are just all utility based. Now, I mean, I think the issue with Heart of the Wild is that they added a damage effect to it, because now no one really plays Bash. They don't really play Mass Entangle unless you go to like Plaguefall, and then you just kind of take Heart of the Wild and you use that as an additional damage effect, especially in Raid where you, I mean, wouldn't use Mass Entangle or Bash anyway. But yeah, I think
there've been a fair few fights where Mass Entangle's been good. And Taurus Burning Throne, Council of Shivara, and what was that annoying boss in Nylothar? The one with images.
Oh, Xanish? Oh.
Nope.
Ah, man.
Third boss in the instance.
Third boss.
Can't remember the name.
It dropped the Psyche Shredder.
Skitra.
That's the one. That's the one. There's
There was
been
actually
a few bosses where
there was a time
Mass Entangle
where
was a good choice.
Moonkin started playing Tiger Dash on N'Zoth for like phase 2 beams, and currently, if Moonkins run Seeds on Zymox, they play Tiger Dash instead of Wild Charge. So it does have uses for sure.
Actually, that reminds me, that's why I hate Wild Charge so much. So I got boosted Cutting Edge by Pieces. They like helped me out and got me N'Zoth. And it was the first time I'd ever been on Mythic of N'Zoth. And I Wild Charge. I was alive because they had a couple other people that they were boosting, and they all died very early on. But I was like, the boss was down to like 30% and I was still going, and I was like, oh, I'm nuts. And because I hadn't seen any videos or anything, so I was just kind of freestyling it. And I had to get out of a mechanic or something or move back to the boss, and I was like, oh, Wild Charge, I've got this ability. And it took me to the behind the boss, and I was in an AoE and I died. But how where's the front and the back of N'Zoth? Like, tell me.
There's some random big bosses that you press Wild Charge on and you instantly die because there's like a death. Like Elisand was one of them. You could charge through the middle and just instantly die.
Dude, that was so annoying.
I mean, there's a couple of things with Wild Charge like that. Like
I killed myself so many times doing that.
Croesus. I don't remember if Croesus you died if you Wild Charge. I think it was just Shadow Step.
Oh god, yeah.
But,
Shadow Step in Croesus. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah.
But yeah.
So going then into continuing now, I guess, with like the rest of Shadowlands stuff, is there anything that you've found has been particularly fun with Feral? Have you guys found any particular builds that you've really enjoyed? I mean, I guess Snupy kind of touched on a little bit, but feel free to still answer. Is there anything that you think is particularly just a lot of fun or an interesting build that you think could be really cool? I know Hippo, you were talking about Frenzy Band earlier, but I guess I'll start with you, Hippo, if you get.
Yeah, for Feral in particular, playing Circle and Keys, it's like very dot heavy, like rip based Primal Wrath. Playing Savage Roar instead of Soul has been fun, and then playing Feral Frenzy instead of Blood Talons in some situations as well. I think Feral Frenzy owns. A lot of people hate it. I hate the new Blood Talons for what it's worth, though. So like, very biased opinion about. I'm actually curious how you feel about the new Blood Talons, because I think it is just a downgrade in every single regard.
How I personally, or like us?
Anyone, I guess.
Anyone?
I don't know.
All right, I'll let these guys answer first, and then I can follow up, of course. But yeah, what do you guys think?
To me, to me, it feels clunky, but it's like getting it up, like in the opener, for example, in an arena doesn't feel very, very good. You can do it like with Kyrian and get some like really big bites, but for me, it's not really like a playstyle that I enjoy. But,
yeah, I know Fuji over on NA. He was playing Kyrian, and he was playing Blood Talons and Curio, and he was like a huge fan of that in PvP.
I think I heard of somebody of tales of somebody going Blood Talons and Katakurio in PvP, and
it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it sounds interesting for sure.
I can't bother to craft legendary, so I'm never gonna
Yeah, I've
try
already
it.
got 8 that I've had to make. So, and you've got all the Guardian ones you gotta go for. So yeah,
I
understandable.
have too many legendaries, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, Blood Talons, like Guilty kind of touched on, now it's very finisher heavy, which is nice. I mean, I like Rip doing a lot of damage, but it was, I kind of enjoyed the snapshotting of rakes, and it feels like we've kind of reduced that down now to where it's just kind of our Blood Talons that we're really affecting. So I kind of do dislike the fact that a lot of our generators aren't really doing too much. And I did enjoy that a lot more. So I don't mind Blood Talons. I think it's definitely a lot more comfortable with Circle. I know I was playing it with Apex specifically in Keys, and I was really disliking it. And people come into my stream and be like, "Oh, how you finding Feral right now?" And I'd be like, "I do not like Apex and Blood Talons because it would be like you'd get your perfect Blood Talon set up, and you've got one left available, and your Primal Wrath, everything's affected by your Rip, and you're chilling, and then like you get an Apex proc, and you're like, oh, you son of a bitch, and now you got to like decide whether to use that, and then have to regenerate, but you're already at 4 combo points, and it's like a whole thing, and you got to really be adaptable on the fly. And I think for a lot of Feral Druids that may not be as comfortable, it could be more complex. So I didn't like that, but as soon as I got Circle, I thought Circle and Blood Talons was really enjoyable. I do still sometimes like struggle where you're in a periods of energy surplus, and you can just kind of spam a bunch of stuff, and then you very quickly run out of energy, and then you're still thinking that you're in that energy surplus, and so I'll miss my Blood Talons generation by like half a second, and it's just a really annoying thing where I just have to slow myself down. But you touched on Frenzy Bend, actually, Hippo, and I thought of a really interesting build where you actually go Frenzy Bend and then you take Feral Frenzy, and then I thought hopefully it would work where each combo point generated, like obviously you get the full effect of your Frenzy, Feral Frenzy,
No,
but it's just the one tick, and I was like,
Frenzy Band is actually like a really interesting playstyle. It's like more akin to like I'd say Legion Feral, like Brutal Slash S, where you still like you rake spread, but you have this like direct damage in a way, even though if it is still a dot, like you just have burst direct damage in the form of a dot. And I think it's definitely super interesting. I wish I could play around with it, but I actually crafted it on my alt druid, and I've just been playing with that. But that alt druid happens to be Vinthier as well, so really just not a good. The Incarn Frenzy Band Vinthier has not been treating me well, if you were curious.
Yeah, I think I'm noticing a few gray hairs actually that you've got there. Yeah.
But I do think that Frenzy Band is like a nice. When they buffed it, I thought like it would be useless, but it actually turns out like it's good on very specific situations. Like it's a little less like good on single target than I'd hope it would be. It's like way worse than whoa, what is that? Drought? Yeah, that one. Feral, yeah, it's very fight dependent. Like Feral having to craft multiple legendaries is like kind of annoying, but at the same time, it's cool because you get to like swap legendaries around for like certain situations. Like Keys, you play Circle, play Frenzy Band, or even Apex. I haven't actually crafted Apex because it's just like it's an in between of like Circle and Drought, and I felt like I would rather have the AOE from Circle and the single target from Drought. I didn't really want the in between, and most of my Soul Ash unfortunately has to go to balance anyways, but it is very fun being able to swap legendaries because I don't actually play any classes that can do that. Well, I guess I play an Ellie Shaman, but I don't want to play an Ellie Shaman. So, but yeah,
Hippo, your life just sounds so like sad, dude. You're like,
dude, you have
so
no
Raid
idea.
is a balanced druid, and then when I'm not doing that, I play my elemental shaman.
So BFA, I hated balanced druid, but like I played it because it was like they made you play. But like it's been okay this expansion. I actually enjoy balance a little more, but I still would 100% rather play Pharaoh in every situation. But it's just not allowed to. So I don't know.
Dude, Hippo's Ellie Shaman is named I'm a Burden.
Yeah, it's.
He couldn't have made it any clearer when he made that character that he didn't want to do this.
Hey, there you go. But what about you guys? Guilty, Snupy. What do you guys think? Has there been any kind of any highlight for you so far? I guess Snupy, will start with you there.
Yeah. Yeah, like what I was saying with like Fearful Symmetry and Berserk kind of work well together now, where you can get like a lot of bites in very fast. And there are many builds that I think could be kind of fun, but I just don't want to farm like the Soul Ash to kind of give it a go. You know, they maybe like wouldn't be the best, but like playing it with the Draught with the like a bite build could be nice, where can I get, you know, more bleed heavy with bites. It probably wouldn't be the best, but it would be fun. And there are many legendaries I want to craft, and also natural order as well. The tank legendary is very fun to play versus like rogues. If you
What does
pre-bear
that do?
kidney. So
Yeah,
when you're
explain that one for us. That'd be great.
So when you bear form and then you bar skin, you gain frenzied regen and iron bark, and also
Oh, it's the bear legendary. Okay.
Yeah, the bear legendary.
And skin also does 10% more damage reduction. So if you like pre-bear kidney versus a rogue, and you skin in bear form, you like you won't die.
You're just immortal.
Yeah, pretty much. So you can go like this was something I want to try. I want to try go this natural as well, Heart of Wild and Guardian legendary, and then Guardian Infinity as well, of course, and then just have like infinite regen, so you can never die. You might not be able to kill stuff either, but it can
just dampen, I guess. I don't know.
You convoked him at some point, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got Convoke, and you know what we say, Snoopy? As long as you've got Convoke, you've got a win con. So like,
you just make them trinket out of like frustration, and then you just convoke them afterwards. So.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see if PvPers pick up Frenzy Band. I think that might be interesting.
I think we would if like we didn't have to do so much tour guest. Actually, like just to try it out.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
like, there probably is some build that like people just haven't tried it because no one has like bought it to like try farm it and actually make the legend, just kind of give it a go.
Man,
So
PvP is lazy, aren't they?
I feel like,
yeah,
I feel like Frenzy Band is actually like comparable to Circle and Keys, just a different damage profile. And I think it's something that people should look into, but like Soul Ash, so I don't know.
I think
you
the
do.
higher the keys you go, the better Frenzy Band gets.
Yeah.
Oh, my cat's awake,
Agreed.
dude.
Hey, there he is, or they are. There they go.
I've never seen a photo of Hippo's cat where it isn't on that bed.
Dude,
Not
it
a
sleeps on
single
my
time.
bed. It's a bed winter.
Get all that cat hair on your face when you go to sleep. Delicious. I played Frenzy Band like 2 days ago, and I played it in a few keys, and it definitely felt like it did less overall than Circle, but like you say, it's a different damage profile, and like you're saying, in high level keys, that damage profile could be really, really good. And I mean, Circle's nice because it's high overall damage, and you just get that constant, consistent damage.
So,
but when you're going up against like say Halkias or whatever shard, like you want that thing dead. You don't want to like nicely burst everything down. You want it dead.
I kind of want to go off on that specifically because I've tried Kiri in this expansion for Pharaoh and Balance. And it's one of those like damage profiles, and keys is like something that people like don't really consider at the lower level. Like the reason why some of these specs are so popular in the Mythic Plus scene is damage profile. Like Mage and Moonkin, damage profile. Like, yeah, they do the most damage, but it's also burst single target or burst AoE, which is like very rare in a spec right now to do that much in like a certain time span. It's like the third slot for a DPS, like you have to play Mage, you have to play Moonkin and a key, and the third slot you can play literally anything you want, in my opinion. But damage profile, it's like for Pharaoh Druid, like Kyrian could have better numbers, and like it's the same thing for Balance. Like theoretically, it could be better on AoE if you're playing it perfectly, but it's a worse damage profile. It's consistent AoE over burst single target or burst AoE. And burst is like inherently, I think Guilty touched on this earlier, burst is inherently better than sustained damage, unless it's like I think PvP it's like a little different. I'm not really sure. Snupy can maybe talk about that later, but burst damage is like very, very good. It's always will be better than rot damage, no matter what. That's just how the game's been balanced forever. And Frenzy Band does that, and it like adds more burst here. Like there's, I'm gonna compare it to Moonkin. Sorry about that, but so Pulsar versus Boat. Like Pulsar does give you better numbers, but like Boat gives you the damage profile. So you play Boat, and like Kyrian could be better numbers, but Night Fate gives you this damage profile. So it's like it's one of those things that I don't think people consider when they like are talking about like Pharaoh's usefulness in keys. Is like it has a really good damage profile. Like Outlaw Rogue, which is like the third most popular DPS, it does not have this bursty AoE. It is like 5 targets sustained, which is like not good in my opinion. Like I think we're gonna be seeing a lot more Havoc Demon Hunters coming up because they've been buffed a lot.
Yeah.
And they have burst AoE, which is very good, and it's uncapped with Foe Rush.
And if you play Havoc, you can then play Guardian Druid tank, which is just a better tank.
Which is like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like discussion about like, oh, Pharaoh's really good, but like, why don't people invite it? And it's literally, I think the whole community stigma of, oh, Pharaoh Druid does damage and bleeds, but they haven't done that in like 2 expansions. Because like even on like single target, it's all bite. Even in keys, bite is like your second highest damage like breakdown. First being AoE rip, clearly, but yeah, that's like that was a little bit of a tangent, but like I just wanted
No,
to.
I like it. I like
You
it.
talked
It's
about
good.
damage profiles with Frenzy Band, and I think a lot of people just don't realize like stuff like this matters.
Yeah.
And I'll yoink your tangent here to talk about Necrolord. So obviously Necrolord got buffed, and now you can play it in PvP, which is cool. And even like Synthetic has started working on the Necrolord APL. He's been working on it for a little bit, but he started doing a bit more. We've got it now hooked up to the main APL. So people simming Necrolord versus Night Fae are going to see now that Necrolord is actually very close to Night Fae in general damage profile. But the problem is that the Necrolord damage profile is so mind-numbingly bad for any kind of PvE content that even though it's like, I think it's even down to like less than 100 DPS difference between Night Fae and Necrolord, which is crazy. But the problem is that if you take that into actual practice and you do actual boss fights, Necrolord is going to end up so much worse than Night Fae.
Yeah.
But as much as I'd like to play a bleed-focused Feral, obviously, unlike Snupy, I did play back in the day.
Yeah.
So I remember playing bleed-focused Ferals, and I remember enjoying it. It was fun. But cooldown creep has basically just been the name of the game the last 3 expansions, and cooldowns are so much stronger than they used to be. The entire game is just about cooldowns.
Yeah.
And this goes for PvE, for PvP, for M+. Everything is about cooldowns. If you have bad cooldowns, your class is bad.
Yeah.
If you don't have cooldowns up, you suck. If you have cooldowns up, basically every class is a god when it has cooldowns up. Every spec is basically just Fire Mage at the moment. I think that's a major thing that people don't consider at the moment is how strong
a
cooldowns
good
are.
tier you can like see that Pharaoh Druid was like bleed. It was like Emerald Nightmare, and then going into Nighthold when they did the 0.5 patch that gave Brutal Slash like usefulness. It because Pharaoh Druid was like one of the top single target specs in Emerald Nightmare, but it was all this like consistent dot damage, and it was good. It was good. People played it, but then when like the great Brutal Slashing happened, that's when Pharaoh became like the best it's been like community perception wise in like years, because Ferals they got direct damage. It was like the first time in forever, and they've just been carrying that forward. It's just like direct damage is the name of the game now for Feral, and it's like unfortunate because like Sabretooth is super unfun to play, but it's just broken because like bite damage. That's
Yeah.
like all you do.
I think it's less so direct damage as well, and more so cooldowns. All of our cooldowns affect direct damage, and that's what drives it more so than it being direct damage. You could make a spec that did only bleed damage and had strong cooldowns that interacted with bleed damage. You can make that spec. Like Assassination in Nihilotha was super bleed heavy. It had like 3 bleeds that it micromanaged. It had cooldowns that interacted with bleed. So you could make that spec, but you'd have to basically just redesign current Feral.
Yeah.
But also they should just nerf all cooldowns in the game by like 50%.
Yeah, I think like I mean there are a few things that I think Blizzard has done not just to affect Feral, right? And touching on what you guys are saying, I don't think the issue in the game, like Blizzard thought, oh, uncapped AoE was a massive issue and that was the problem and we needed to cap AoE, right? That was never the problem. The problem was low CD, high burst damage CDs, right? You look at something like Combust on Fire Mage. It doesn't matter that there's an AoE cap in the game. Fire Mage still exists, and its damage profile is a 1-minute cooldown, which obliterates a whole pack or a pride or a boss. Like it removes something from the game, or a player. Like it removes an element from the dungeon every 1 minute. And that is just like Feral is not going to compete when we've got a 3-minute Berserk cooldown. And Berserk, I mean, you do 2 ferocious bites and then you're like, ooh, you're out of energy, and it's not going to compete. But I think that there are some interesting damage profiles that we can build on, like Hippo, you were saying about, you know, the potential Frenzy Band style and like people not being aware of some of these things. I think Feral as well, the Apex style, even though again Apex does slightly less than Circle in overall, I think the fact that you can prio target a single mob, so again something like a Halkias, you can pull big and then you can funnel damage into this particular target, or say an Arden Wield, and the other side you have the Matriarch, and like you can Primal Wrath everything and then funnel bites into this mob, and you can really help your team in that way. But I think because Feral's overall is pretty low, again, because, you know, like our damage profile, but also because our cooldowns don't necessarily scale well in mass AoE, people think Feral is shit. And I kind of also wanted to touch on as well, Guilty. I mean, you mentioned about bleeds and stuff. I think Feral, and I think hit by you as well, like, I think Blizzard is scared to buff Feral's bleeds, because I think whenever Feral's bleeds are strong, it's like they're OP, and I feel like they end up being like just too strong because of it. So Blizzard are like against buffing our bleeds. So we end up in this middle ground where we're not quite a bleed spec, but we're not quite like this just non-bleed spec. So we're kind of in this middle ground, kind of in this purgatory, I think, that kind of affects us. Blizzard doesn't really know which way they want to go. It feels, but I wish they would give us more feedback, and when they make design decisions would go, this is why we're doing this, and this is what we want Feral to be, because that would definitely be helpful with understanding some of these things. Decisions.
Yes, I don't think. I mean, I think in general, I don't think there's a strong philosophy of what they want anything to be in particular. Unfortunately, I think they're kind of lacking leadership in that regard. That's a bit tangential, but yes, I think the reason they can't do that is because basically they don't have an idea of what they want it to be. They don't have an idea of what they want anything really to be.
That was shade. Oh, shit.
I mean, I don't mean it to be shade, right? Like, it's just it is how it is. There's not much more you can say than, yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. So,
I know people hate that, but yeah.
Moving on slightly then, unless you know you guys wanted to kind of add anything to that. I was gonna say, what advice would you guys give to somebody who's wanting to get into Feral now?
Just play it.
Yeah. Just play it.
I think there's so much people like hype themselves out of like, oh, it seems like it's so hard, yada yada yada. I don't think it is. I think just pick it up, play it. If you like it, then great, keep playing it. It's not that complicated. You'll pick it up, ask some questions of like streamers, of like guides, of discords, whatever. Yeah. I feel like it's all pretty.
I think that's a
self-explanatory.
It's like a general community problem as well. Power infusion. Whoops. Okay. Or disregarding that, it's like a lot of people are scared to play classes that they don't know how to play because they don't want to be flamed. And the WoW community is like generally toxic about like players playing some broken class, or even like, so you see a fire mage at a key, he does like 0 overall, and you're just like, wow, this guy sucks. Like maybe that's his first time playing fire mage. You have no idea, right? But a big problem with Feral is that it does have this learning curve of dots in a class, which is like rare these days for some reason. So people are more scared of Feral because, as well as this, back to the community perception thing of, oh, Feral's the hardest spec in the game, and when you do execute it perfectly, it doesn't even do like comparable damage. But not only is it not as hard as people think it is, but you can compare with like these top specs if you just play out of your mind. And like that's the fun part of playing.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of playing off meta to me personally. Like right now, like I've been leveling a Mistweaver, and it's just like playing this awful healer, but it's like it's so fun because it's just like you're playing the worst healer in the game, but you're just having fun. And like that's like the problem with WoW nowadays, that people stopped having fun and they only play what's good. And like I'm obviously not guilty, or like
says the boom,
very
says
guilty.
The boom elemental, huh?
but like I do like. I think a lot of people just need to like play it, like don't not play it. Even, like that's all you have to do, just try it. Like that's it.
What about you,
like,
Snupy?
For PvP, like most classes are of course gear dependent, but some are more than others. Like Feral, like in PvP, if you have like bad gear, you're gonna get rolled down by certain specs. Rogues. Yeah, warriors like windwalkers, you just get blasted. So I think you just gotta be, if you want to play Feral, like get ready for like a rough 2 weeks of kind of grinding, like learn the spec, getting some gear, because a lot of people ask me to play it, and like they seem to have like the hardest time, and it's probably like a mix of like them queuing at like maybe 1400 MR, and they're facing like 220 eye level people. They have like 200 eye level, and they just don't know like why they're getting rolled. So I think just give it time, be patient, and if I think Feral is really fun. and just play for like a few weeks and get some gear, and you'll probably be happy that you didn't quit after a week of getting
I also
black.
think if you just play the spec, it will make sense to you.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
just
and
gotta
maybe
play
this
it.
is just me in particular and how I learn, but if I try and read about something or watch a guide or something, my brain is just fucking all over the place. If I
Yeah.
just pick something up and then try and connect what I'm actually doing to the guide, then it's so much easier for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, I personally feel like I'm very much I call it a feely crafter rather than a theory crafter. I'm very much that guilty. Like, a lot of people ask me, oh, how's Frenzy Band and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, you know what, I haven't tried it, so I don't know. I want to try it, I want to feel it, I want to embrace it, and then I can go, oh, I liked this or I didn't like that, whatever. And I think Feral's very much one of those where you kind of just have to like pick up and play and just gotta kind of get a feeling for it. I think people definitely get scared because they hear terms like, they hear people historically say, oh, Feral's really complex, and I think people try and maybe perpetuate that because they want it to be like a small, tight-knit kind of club, like only like the 7 cool kids can play Feral and nobody else can. But like
I hate that.
yeah, I
Everyone
think that's
play
just
Feral. I don't give a shit, man.
yeah,
Like, what?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like,
But there
I
are
think
people who do like gatekeep it. It's like, oh, I'm playing the
Yes.
hardest spec of the game, bro. Like I'm a different breed. Like, no, you're not, man. Like,
yeah, it's like, come on, dude, we're playing a 15-year-old child's video game. Like, just chill and have a good time. And I think people hear terms like snapshotting and pandemic windows, and they go, oh my god, Feral's like Feral's nuts. But it's really not that hard. I mean, the way I say it is, if I can play it, you can absolutely play it. So I think that's a good take. I mean, I think my big advice whenever I think of anyone that's trying to pick up Feral is have patience, right? You're gonna get declined from stuff. You're gonna get memed on. You're gonna get kind of this poor community like reception, but just stick with it and just have patience and just don't, like, if you enjoy the spec, play the spec, and just don't stress about it. Don't stress about needing to be at a certain point or needing to like have a certain IO or a certain guild progress or anything like that. Just enjoy it. Like, what do you care more about? Do you care more about playing Feral Druid because you enjoy it, or do you care more about like being invited to stuff? In which case, like, play meta and whatever. But Hippo, I think that's really, really cool what you just said in terms of, I think a lot of people in the game have transitioned into, I have to play the best thing because that's the way that I'm going to build up my stream, and then I'm going to get rich and famous, and then girls are going to talk to me, And I think a lot of people, like, are trying, I think because games have just can change people's lives these days. Everything's become so competitive. I mean, you have something like, was it Fall Guys? Like, I mean, I guess that game by nature is a little bit competitive, but like, it was just like this little meme game.
It's literally a race. What are you talking about?
Like, it's just like a fun little dovey little game. Like, you're just this little jelly bean, and like, you kind of just messing around, or even something like Among Us. Like, Among Us is just like a fun game to get inside your friends' heads, and then like you get
You
in,
and I
like,
have been playing in
like,
very different.
yeah,
Among Us
like
lobbies.
Yeah,
day 2 of Among Us being out, like, suddenly everyone's like, where were you on January 27th at like 3:00? And you're like, I don't know, dude. And they're like, sus. And you're like,
yeah.
I just want to play a fun game.
For sure, games are inherently way more competitive just because of esports, and I think it's a good thing. Like, you should be competitive in like moderation, though, especially if you're like nowhere near the level. Like, I remember there was a problem with BFA that a lot of people had because like the race to world first started happening, and everyone's just complaining like, oh, or even MDI. I think MDI is a way better example. It was just like, oh, why is all 8 teams they're playing the exact same comp, doing the exact same route? What is going on? This is so unfun. But like, that is like in a completely different bubble than anything you will ever touch if you are not close to that gameplay. Like, you do not need to worry about what people in MDI are doing. Like, just go play the game how you want to play it. And like, I promise you that this MDI bubble or this like race to world first bubble just will never affect you if you're not trying to push to that level. Like,
The big thing
like,
about
you sh-
MDI is there's always going to be an optimal comp, and people are always
Yeah.
going to work out the optimal comp, and people are just going to play the optimal comp, and that is just how games work.
Yeah.
There's no way of fixing that. That is just how being competitive works.
well, it's
Um,
weird because like, I don't know why I'm bringing up my Mistweaver, but like, I've just this rat Mistweaver. I'm like 200 eye level, but like Raider IO exists, right? And people care about score more than anything. You can be this like garbage off meta class with 20 less eye level than another player, and they'll invite you over some like very obviously better player for your group just because your Raider IO score is higher. Like shit like that, it's ridiculous to me because it's like it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't for your plus 15 miss. You do not need double like Mage Boomy Rogue Vintage Demon Hunter. And then like the people usually
Wait, hold on. You don't have
this,
a healer in that comp. You went 4
listen,
DPS, 1 tank.
I
Hold on.
was
That's a smart comp right there. That's a smart VOD.
the people usually applying these like super meta things aren't even playing meta themselves, or they're applying it to like a plus 15. Like it doesn't matter. Like, and
We
I'm
can
sure
talk
this
about
happens.
your MDI experience if you want.
We don't have to talk. Okay, actually, it is a good point
Yeah,
because
go
when
for
I
it.
did MDI, no one cared what happened. Everyone played their main. You maybe played an off spec if it was like clearly broken, like at the time it was Arms Warrior. But
Windwalker
like
Monk.
Windwalker Monk, like stuff like that, like that's fine because like people didn't care about meta back then, and it was still like competitive. But like as it grew, you're just forced to play this competitive. Like you have to play this bottom comp for the top end, not your plus 15 miss, right? But like people will always apply it because I don't know, like human psychology or something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I find like it's really weird for me when I see people who aren't like, unless you're already at the top end, right? Like let's say you play a spec that you enjoy, so you play an arcane mage and you get up to like 2300 IO, and then you go, hold on a second, maybe I'm actually a pretty good player. Maybe I could actually like be competitive in the high end scene. Okay, now I'll go fire mage. Right, but get there as an arcane mage first or whatever, right? Like get there as the other thing. Don't be like 200 IO, 190 item level, and be like, I need to play fire mage now because I'm not going to get there unless I start. It's like, no, like find that you're actually good at that thing, and then you can kind of transition. But it's kind of like going for like a Friday night run, and then like being like, all right, what shoes is like Mo Farah wearing, and like what energy drink does he have, and like what's his diet, and like how do like what's his lap times? I'm like, it doesn't matter. You're not competing against him. You're not in the Olympics. You're going for like your Friday night run. Like you're in a different league. It's okay to be in that different league, and I think that's a really good take there, Hippo. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up. That's cool. Now, guys, I'm aware that we're not like running out of time. We still got a bit left of the show, but I do want to leave time for viewers to ask any questions at you guys that they might want to have. But I mean, there are a few things that we can kind of discuss. Obviously, we've kind of been talking about legendaries, and we've spoken about the best, covenants and stuff like that, touched upon them. But I want to just like kind of, I guess, briefly talk about stuff that happened in 9.0.5. We didn't really get a big, kind of any sweeping changes. We had a minor conduit change to Venthia, where we had the increased crit gain per stack. We had the Necrolord got the adaptive swarm buff to the actual adaptive swarm, and then we had frenzy band being increased by quite a significant margin, and then we had Cat-Eye Curio getting a little bit of a buff. Was there anything that has really changed for you guys as a result of 9.0.5? Was there anything that you think we should have gotten that we didn't? And are you happy with where they changed out? Snupy, I'll come at you, man.
I mean, so far, like the small like buff to swarm is actually changing things. So that's a pretty big thing. Like a lot of the top files are switching covenants for it. I think it would probably be a good thing to do like previous patch too. But yeah, like now it's actually changing like the meta for files like quite a bit in PvP. And if you ask me in a week, I could probably like, talk more about it, as I've been kind of slacking on my leveling. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool to see like a bleed spec coming back in. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
It's good to know that change
garbage,
did something. Yeah, Venthyr is just awful.
Yeah. I don't know what they have to do for Venthyr to actually be a choice in any way, shape, or form.
Redesign it.
Yeah.
Just throw in the garbage and do it again.
Yeah, basically, it's just whoever the fuck designed that. Just I don't know.
I don't know why Venthia is the only one with a punishment. Like, imagine you're in PvP and it's like, hey, have some crit, and then also if you mess up, then you get stunned, and you're like, nah, I'm good. I think I'll dip actually. But
one of my favorite clips from beta was Hippo playing Venthir in a dungeon, then killing a mob, and he had like 20 stacks, and his Venthir just dropped off because they killed the mob. There was nothing more he could hit, and he just died.
Venthir, it used to do like 2% of your. It used to like scale with the damage. Like if you had. It scaled with like the 2% damage, 2% crit. It also did 2% of your HP per stack. So it would literally one-shot you at 25 stacks, unfortunately. And that happened to me a lot because I actually like was a big Vinthier advocate, and I still think to this day that people do not give Vinthier for Pharaoh. It sucks. Let me get that clear. But for like other specs like Resto and Balance, I think Vinthier like actually does have some niche, but no one will ever listen to me on that. So unfortunate.
After this show, we're getting you to talk to Torty about Venthyr Resto.
The Resto part, not really it, but it does have a use of being Venthyr, so that's good.
Seems like high risk, low reward. It's just not...
I mean that's like the worst design always, like high risk, low reward.
Yeah, for
Avoid that at Blizzard.
It would take a miracle to make Venthyr good.
But apart from that, Hippo, like in terms of legendary changes and stuff, and I mean, I guess like Necrolord got a slight buff. Was there anything? Were you expecting more from 9.0.5, or were you kind of like, this is fine?
At this point, I should be expecting more because 9.1 is not coming out ever. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that 9.0.5 like it was gonna be a little like a brief patch to add Valor. They give you like 2 or 3 weeks, and then 9.1 drops, but. Literally, no one knows when 9.1 is going to drop. So at this point, I'm a little disappointed with 9.0.5, just because all it added was Valor and like slight tweaks to things. Like, I think I don't think anything changed really about like any class.
9.0.5 could have been a hotfix.
Yeah. I think the only thing I can think of that was like even slightly good was like I think Vinthier BM hunters are good in PvP now, and rogues play assassination in some forms of content. Rogue Covenants actually got changed a lot, so that was
didn't Frost get quite a significant buff, and isn't Frost actually doing pretty well in certain certain levels?
Which Frost are we talking about?
Frost Mage.
So
Frost
Mages have a unique problem similar to Feral Druid, that they have another spec that is better, unfortunately. So that's an interesting set of problems.
I think Fire Mage is definitely better, especially in like the higher level keys, but I think Frost is actually really good in some of like the like medium to high-ish level. So anywhere from like a 10
Frost
to like 20 key, I think.
Because like previous expansions it was used for kiting.
Yep.
But now you play this like legendary where you need mobs to be in your Blizzard, where it has the exact same problem as Fire Mage. So like its niche of kiting, it just wants to stand still now. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so it's kind of the niche of Fire Mage, but not quite as good. The thing, though, as well, is like the reason that Frost Mage probably isn't as good as it was is like tanks are just so strong and sturdy now that they don't really need to kite so much. You know, they can just stand in everything. Sorry, no, I'm talking about a piece of cardboard. Sorry, ignore me.
Yeah. Okay.
Guilty.
Joke, but Guardian is just immortal, man. That's
Guardian's actually
Guardian
nuts.
is very tanky.
Guardian's a monster.
I think back on like the buffs and nerfs thing, I think Cat Eye Curio is a really weird one that it got buffed and then it got nerfed when the buff needed to make Cat Eye Curio competitive with the best legendary was like a plus 100% on like everything about it. And it got buffed by like 15 and then taken down to 10 or something, I believe.
I mean, okay, so Cat Eye Curio is it's fine in that position of there's Drought for single target, right? Which is just clearly the best legendary for single target. And it should be, because it doesn't work outside the single target. Then you've got this chunk of like 4 or 5 legendaries that are all really competitive with each other. So you've got Cat Eye Curio, you've got Frenzy Band, you've got Circle, and you've got Apex. And the thing is, all of those other legendaries, they're like within like 20, 30 DPS of each other. It's crazy close. But like Circle is clearly best in AoE. Frenzy Band is clearly best to burst. Apex has that niche of on some fights you can funnel bites onto targets. And Cat Eye Curio just kind of doesn't have a niche.
Yeah.
It's kind of just, it's Cat Eye Curio. So that's the problem with Cat Eye Curio. But the Cat Eye Curio changes were really weird because they buffed it by like 20 DPS or something like minuscule. It was like you got 3 extra shreds over 5 minutes on a fight. It's like this is never going to change how valuable the legendary really is. And then they nerfed it, so you got like 2.4 shreds or something instead, or like 2 shreds, and it's like, what is the data you're using for this buff, like, or nerf? Like, I'm so confused. Where you were like, getting 3 extra shreds, too strong. 2 extra shreds. On the money.
Yeah, perfect.
Nailed
perfect.
It.
All right, let's ship it.
It is really interesting how the legendary has uses in PvP though, and it's like completely useless in PvE, like similar to Symmetry. where like
It's useless.
maybe they're scared. Do you think it's actually useless? Because I saw
No, I mean,
you guys
I
were
used it
talking
because
about.
it's the only one I have when I do PvE.
Yeah. Okay. So
Is it bad?
symmetry, PVE bad, obviously, but like Cat Curio, you
Actually,
guys were talking about how.
symmetry on Spiteful Week actually pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no meme, pretty good. But yeah, go on.
It had some uses for like I think people were playing Kyrian with like Blood Talon's low empowerment and playing Cat Eye, so just they would just spit out like Blood Talon bites, and like that was their play style, I guess. And so like it's not like Cat Eye Curio doesn't have any niche, like it's there in a form of content, but like, are they afraid to buff it because of that, or like what's going on? Is my question.
I don't know. It was a weird one. I have no idea what went on in the
Yeah,
background. With
I
that
mean,
one. It just
every
confused
spec
me.
has that legendary that's just like the in between of single target AOE and it's not even good. That is Cat Eye for Feral, and no one really knows how to buff it in a significant way that wouldn't just make it overpowered, I guess, or like an annoying playstyle of just spamming generators. So I don't know. It's definitely something weird.
I have a couple things with Cat Eye Curio, and I actually think it's fine where it's at for like a particular reason, right? Like, okay, they could buff it and just buff it, like you say, by like 100% on everything, and then it would actually be like a really good damage legendary, sure. But I look at it in two ways. I look at it, first of all, it doesn't change your rotation, right? Like it facilitates your rotation more. It gives you more energy, allows you to press more buttons, right? But so if you're like new to Feral, or you don't want to play something like Frenzy Band, where you might have to like factor how Frenzy Band is going to work in, or Circle, and you feel like Circle Blood Talons is too complex for you, whatever. I think Cat Eye Curio is actually really nice, just nothing legendary. Like it doesn't impact anything. And I know for like you, like I know that sounds really weird, but like imagine if you're imagine if you're just a player who's not like highly competitive, right? Say, I don't want to use the word like casual, but imagine you're just kind of like yeah, I don't know, not as advanced or whatever. I think that's a really nice legendary for you to kind of get in, gain a bit of power, but not kind of add any complexity. Now, should Blizzard balance legendaries for that kind of gameplay? Not necessarily, but I think that's kind of where it fits in nicely. But also, I wonder if Blizzard are intending to add the ability to wear two legendaries at once. In which case, I think Cat Eye Curio, I call it like a facilitator legendary. I think it's a really good way for you to allow you to do your rotation, and it's not necessarily a DPS increaser.
Well,
but it like allows you to do your thing. So imagine if you're playing Circle, where you're actually getting the DPS increase on all your bleeds, and then you have Cat Eye Curio on at the same time, where suddenly you have the energy so that you're not restricted. And then now you can play Cat Eye Curio, but you can also squeeze in bites, and you can rake spread more, and like that kind of thing. So, but go on.
Well, that happened
I think
in
it's
Legion.
pretty likely, but
The exact same thing happened in Legion.
Oh
right?
wait, why don't you go first? Hiba, you go first, and then Guilty follow, I guess.
Okay, so in Legion you had Chatoyant Signet, which is just Cat Eye Curio, but like a little different. It was just like an energy ring, and that's all it gave you, just energy and then like energy region. And it wasn't that good alone. Like you had it alone, you're not mad that you have this legendary, because Legion was way different, like RNG, but it was a build enabler, I guess, is like the way to look at it. Like you started when you were able to wear two legendaries, like you're just going to use the energy one because you have your strongest, and then you have the thing that makes your strongest even stronger, which would be Cat Eye Curio in this case. So I think that would just happen. Like there's no way you're wearing well, you'd probably wear Circle and Drought, actually. That sounds a little broken. But like in keys, like I think you would just wear like Circle and Cat Eye over anything else. Like maybe even Circle Frenzy Band, or Cat Eye's Frenzy Band rather. But yeah, it's just a build enabler. And as soon as you're able to use two legendaries, like you're gonna use Cat Eye, I think, in a lot of scenarios.
Potentially, but yes, it will probably be better with two legendaries than it is alone. But I wouldn't expect to be using two legendaries for at least like 2 more patches.
That's the thing, right? Like we don't even know when 9.1 is coming. They definitely didn't announce that. Like normally with the 9.1, because at BlizzCon they kind of went, "Hey, we kind of have this new Moor zone, and like here's a new mount," and then that was all we found out.
They also specifically said there wouldn't be two legendaries in 9.1.
Oh, so, did they? Okay, yeah. So we specifically know it's not coming.
Yes.
Drought plus like Fairfield would be really fun, I think, for PP.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But
I think there's a lot of two legendary combinations that'd be quite interesting for people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think it's a thing we have to worry about for a little bit at least.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully they
Actually-
just add a legendary slot and it's utility only. That'd be great.
That's
Yeah.
also not going to happen
Yeah,
because
for sure.
they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of some good points there on in terms of the legendaries. And I mean, I think in general, I mean, we kind of spoke on it earlier, and I won't kind of get caught up on it because we can kind of move on to some other stuff. But I think it's kind of cool that Feral, you know, I spoke about the fact that Feral needs like 8 different legendaries depending on what content you're doing, and I think that can be a downside because you're capped on how much soul ash you can farm each week. But I think it's actually really nice because if I play like my survival hunter, I have 1 legendary. I play my wildfire clusters, and then like that's all I do. Or I go play my monk and I play the haste like legendary, and that's all I use, right? Yeah, Invoker's Delight. There you go. And that's like all I use, right? Whereas like with Feral, it's like, ooh, what do I want to kind of mess around with? And I think that it's nice that you have options to kind of move your builds around, which is kind of cool. But talking then, what do you guys think about, I mean, I think we're kind of cool there on 9.9.5. What do you guys think about 9.1? Is there anything that you want to see? Is there a particular buff, nerf, change to legendary tier sets you want added in? Like 2 legendaries, anything, utility updates, anything in particular?
Bro,
Guilty.
at this point, I don't even know if 9.1 is ever
I want
going
the
to come out.
patch personally.
Yeah, you
but,
want it to exist? Okay.
Yeah.
I want like a date, like just like, you know, it's coming
Yeah,
up this time, and then
anything.
we know. That's what I want. Like I think it's gonna be hype no matter what. More than this right now, at least. Like right now, I feel like WoW's been like the past 2 weeks, at least for PP. I feel like it's been sad times. It's been kind of slowing down a bit, like the season, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like rumors around the top end that people think September is the next raid at this point.
There's
Because-
no way it's September.
which
There's
is,
no
like-
way
which
we
is
have
ridiculous,
to do
right?
9 months of Castle Natural.
But like,
Oh,
I don't know. It's really strange because like I don't know. There's like clips forming around of like people talking about how Blizzard doesn't even know when it's coming out. They don't even know. So like, how are we supposed to know? Which like it might just be like hearsay or like whatever.
Yeah.
But at this point, I want the patch to come out. I want Valor to be equal to Conquest. I want PvP gear to be only PvP gear, and then I'm chill.
Okay. I mean, what I want too is like
Fuck.
solo queue, but I mean, this is not gonna happen for probably 5
that's not-
years.
that's not going to happen this expansion, at least, I think.
No.
I think
Yeah,
it'd be cool, I agree. But
I feel like
But,
solo queue would just make WoW PvP like so popular, man. Like it's ridiculous.
Do you guys
Honestly,
actually
like-
think that would be a good thing? Because I feel like sometimes we
Dude.
ask for things and then we get them and then we go, "Oh, this
It
is ruining the
has to
game."
be good.
Do you think
There's no
solo
way
queue
it
would be
can't
good?
be good, man?
Dude, you know, like I can't tell. Like even my brother, he tried playing WoW, and like friends of mine too, and just people from my stream in general. They want to play, but they can't play. It's like a game where you want to queue, and they spend an hour trying to find someone. They do one game, they get flamed, get kicked,
Yep.
and they get ignored before they can even like respond to the guy, and then like that's their experience, right?
Yeah.
And like what game like where you want to play and you can't even play without like
I
spending
wouldn't
hours.
want it to be the only bracket, is the thing.
No. I agree with that.
I think you need to keep team 2s and team 3s, because I think 2s and 3s as a team is something that's like unique
Yeah,
in
for
terms
sure.
of competitive games. No other games really have something that works like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a solo queue that you could just like mindlessly queue up, like delete skirmishes. What fucking value do skirmishes add anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Absolutely.
so fucking worthless. Just
Yeah.
I
delete
think, like-
skirmishes and make solo queue ranked.
Like a good solo queue system would be more like it would kind of supplement like ranked like team arena where
Yes.
you might find someone there and then you can actually play with them, and you
Yes,
just like
exactly.
you get thrown into it instead of like spending hours in LJ. I don't know if you guys saw Stoop's video. He made a video about like how they could rework LG at least and make it like a Tinder thing where you kind of swipe and kind of find people because right now it's like
Oh no, I don't
it's
have to
very
sleep
much-
with them, do I?
no you don't have to.
Only if you want to.
only if they're good. Only if they beat me in a 1v1, then maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, like LG, like it's kind of just outdated as well, like how it is. If they could have, I don't know for PvE, like I guess you have Raider IO and stuff, but they could. I think Super is gonna make an add-on for this actually, but have some way you can kind of see people's max rating, kind of just see it there, and it's just there instead of it being more of a like a guesswork. Like is this guy using like a fake achievement add-on or whatever?
Oh yeah, like what?
It's very sketchy now. Like pretty much, you'll find someone who maybe was glad like 10 years ago. And,
Yeah, exactly. Like in
Giraffe
Burning Crusade or
lad.
some shit. Yeah, like I know that whenever I sign up to anything, so say I sign up to RBGs, which I haven't in a while because again, it's like just so tedious trying to form a group. You do one game and then everybody leaves because you lose because no one talks on voice. Like why ask for voice comms and then not talk? You know what? It's fine. Don't worry about it. But what I do is I'll just like sign up and they'll be like, oh, link verse in description, and I'll just be like, I'm like 25% and I'm like 11%, and I'll just like, because you can just lie and you can say like, oh, I'm 2100 rating, and like nobody knows. And I think yeah, something like that could probably be a good idea.
Sam said in the chat, like there's Check PvP, which is like a very nice website where you can kind of search people up and find it. But you know, like the average player is not really going to use this, so I think if they could kind of integrate this like into just like the system itself, you know, could be nice. But yeah.
I think solo queue could actually be really, really good. I mean, most like PvP streamers that I see, they're trying to do like 1v2s and stuff, and like you know, like when I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of PvP, it's not really my like scene, but I'm trying to get more into it. But you watch like a Soda pop in, and like his whole thing was going and 1v2ing people or like 1v1ing, and like Pika does a lot of that stuff, and and getting out the selfie cam and whatnot. And I just think it would be such a good way for people to just kind of like mess around, and you could make it ranked, but it would still be like people want to be like, I'm the best player in the world. I beat that guy in the 1v1. I am superior.
I think
like,
you have to make it ranked because otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like you need some incentive.
Skirmishes, yeah, because skirmishes exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people don't give a shit about those. Those are basically solo queue.
Yeah.
Like basically all they need to do is slap some kind of matchmaking on skirmishes, slap a visible rating on it, and make it so that it like tries to form like a semi-sane comp. Like just make it always do caster or ranged plus melee plus healer, and I think you're set.
I think that'd be so good.
But also that stuff about 1v2 feels very much like a personal attack. I literally have a PvP movie of me doing 1v2s back in Warlords of Draenor.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think they could do that kind of stuff. I think that'd be a good addition. Guilty, was there anything that you kind of think 9.1 needs to see?
Oh fuck! I would just love the patch to exist. I just want the raid to be good. I hope the raid is good. I'd like to see some more tuning to classes because I think tuning is a little bit outrageous at the moment. Delete fire mages, delete warlocks, and PvP tuning as well. Like rets are currently just the most annoying thing to play against.
I feel like every streamer just has a ret paladin. They have 4,000 twos game in, and they just queue with a viewer. And they're at like 1,500 MMR, and they just ruin everyone's day.
Tip people for 20k.
I'm guilty of that too, though. Like having max scary and just going like low MR and just convoking people.
Dude, it's crazy. I swear, it's the hardest bracket is like 1,400 to 1,600, and then like after you get past that, it's fine. Just because everyone just has some like 227 ret paladin that just only play to grief people.
There was a really interesting chart I saw talking about PvP. There was a really interesting chart I saw that tracked people's rating versus their eye level, and it showed sort of like what the average eye level was in brackets. I'm considering like 1,400 gives what? It's 207 gear, right?
No.
1,400 is 207.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The average eye level in the 1,400 to 1,600 bracket, bearing in mind PvP gear gets 207 gear from that. The average eye level is 220 in that bracket.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you supposed to start as a new player?
Yeah,
it's just impossible. But yeah, I'd like them to fix niggling issues like that. I want better tuning. I want a good raid. Castle Nathru is pretty good. Most of the bosses. I think Sire is the best designed boss fight they've done in like 2 expansions.
I think
that isn't named Unat.
From a raid perspective, Castle Nathru could have been like the best tier in like ever. Like Sludge Fist week 1 tuning was some of the most fun progression I've ever done in my life. And then Sire is just like one of the coolest end bosses they've ever had, even if it was a little more on the easy side. And then like every other of these like middle tier bosses, they're like super cool, super unique. And then Stone Legion Generals just ruined it. And it's just like it's not even like on the Fallen Avatar level where it's just hard. It literally was not fair. Like
it was
I don't know. It was something bad.
I think
you go from
raid
like
team
Sludge
normally
Fist to SLG so bad, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was kind of weird how like the difficulty kind of pretty much goes like up and up and up, and then you hit like SLG, and then you do SLG, and then like you drop down, and then you do Sire. And it's like for me mentally, I know that when I killed Zakul in Eternal Palace, it was like, right, okay, now we're getting into like we killed Zakul, and it was like, all right, now the real raid boss begins. Whereas like this, we killed SLG, and I was like, oh, raid tier's over. Like it just feels like that boss is already dead. But I still think, like you say, it's a really cool boss fight and whatnot. And I think the raid team normally does a really, really good job. Like, normally the raids are just, really good, or they're at least enjoyable, and there are some good boss fights and
that dude in chat, getting rid of raid buffs / debuffs, fucking preach.
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be nice.
There's actually an extremely huge issue of tanks right now, like not even tank balance, of like debuff slots.
Yeah, you just take tanks for debuffs or buffs.
You tanks for debuffs or buffs, but like this tier was super unique, where Havoc it wasn't good for like the first time since its release. So you had to play Vengeance, and then Vengeance also happened to be the best tank. Then it also happened to have mobility, which was a unique thing of this tier, that Vengeance mobility was used in like 3 out of 10 fights this tier. Like SLG Stonefist, for example, or like Heart Rends in Phase 1, and like Council Kiting, stuff like that. It just it was the stars aligned for Vengeance Demon Hunter this tier. But like next tier is just like you're in this weird spot, because Windwalker is like, it's good. Havoc is good now. But their melee, are you just going to play Vengeance Brewmaster? And like no tank likes to play Brewmaster. It's always just Mystic Touch Prison, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
And Andy Brews wants to speak to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like those Andy Brews, those trance brews that just like love Brewmaster. Those guys need to go like mental asylum or something. But it's super weird, because like buffs and debuffs, it just ruins any fun aspect. Like, I don't know, it's so...
Well, it makes a decision for you, doesn't it? Your hands are already tied before you've even had a chance.
I had it in Nyalotha. I like played balance, and I was forced by my guild to play a Havoc Demon Hunter alt because you needed 2 debuffs, and it was just like, okay, you have a DH alt. Welcome to DH. You're like 20 eye levels below everyone. Welcome
Doesn't
to
matter.
Psychist.
The crazy thing is, when it was originally added, it was meant to ensure like some less played classes were, or at least that was the way it was advertised. Some like less played classes would be forced into the meta, so you'd have more variance in there. And then they gave Mage and Priest buffs and Warrior. Like, what? Where's the disconnect here?
Well, I don't know if you remember like Hunter aspect of the Fox. There used to be like somewhat unique buffs that everyone could bring it, but like it also didn't matter if you had aspect of the Fox or not.
Okay,
like,
no.
Well,
Aspect of the Fox is 100% the wrong one to pick, because Aspect of the Fox was game-changing.
I don't know. Amplify Magic.
You're talking about what buffs? When there was like Feral brought crit, but also you could have Hunter who brought crit, or you could have, I think Mage could also bring crit.
Yeah, it's just like all classes brought these buffs, and it was fine. Like, it didn't matter.
Yeah,
if you missed one,
everyone had
some other
something,
class
but
could
you
do
could
it.
get them from other places. And Hunter could bring any of them.
Then you had still a raid buff problem. Like, Aspect of the Fox is broken. Amplify Magic was broken. They've never hit it on the nail correctly. Or the nail. I don't even know what that phrase means.
After BRF, though.
But like, yeah, I remember it's similar to like debuffs nowadays. Like, if you didn't have Aspect of the Fox or Blackhand, you could not do the fight. You couldn't do it.
Everyone log onto their Hunter ults. Like,
yeah,
I just think it's so game changing.
I think it's so weird that like they have Priest and Warrior that already bring buffs, and then they gave him personal buffs as well. Like, Warrior now has the Necrolord banner. Priest now, you've got PI, and you've got Stam buff, and you've got the Spirit Guardian or whatever as well. Like, they just like doubled down on and then some of us have nothing. Like, if you're like a Survival Hunter or Feral Druid, like, if you've clearly got problems, then you just don't bring anything. It feels bad. But Snoopy's over there like, I've got Leader of the Pack. Yeah. Seriously, what are you guys talking about? I don't understand. No, but we will be probably going.
I wouldn't mind Leader going like baseline, by the way. Then you get one more like talent. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Give us
some good talents you could take there as well.
Yeah.
And chat, just so you know, we will be doing like a short Q&A. I normally we don't get too many questions, but it depends. I'll see, kind of read what you guys are doing. Just at me, do at Cyberslat with your question. It can be for a general question. It can be at a specific player. It doesn't have to just be related to, I guess, like Feral or whatever. But
just as a quick note, I refuse to answer questions about Guardian Druids.
You keep hiding it, man, but we all know the deal, all right? We all know the deal, but, really, I can't, I could hide this within and just kind of, like, keep this to myself and play it off cool, but, we were talking about solo queue a second ago. I've always thought that solo queue meant being able to, like, queuing into a 1v1 arena, but you mean solo queue, dude,
yes.
And I realized, and we were talking about it, and I was like, oh, I've thought this is the. I've been wrong about this the whole time, but yeah, solo queue is being able to queue into 2. Oh my goodness! But I realized, and I was like, oh, I can't admit it, and then I was like, no, I have to admit it. I have to hold my hand up and laugh at myself like a goon. Hey, we all make mistakes.
I mean, I'd be down for a dual ladder as well, but
yeah, well, I thought
it would
just
be
a 1v1
wildly
would be sick.
unbalanced.
Yeah, it would be terrible, but like that would be so good. Imagine you log on, you go on Reddit, you go on Twitter, like every day they would just be like, "Oh my god, nerf Ret Paladin! What the hell? They bubble!" And like it'd just be great. It'd be fantastic.
Okay, but nerf Ret Paladin, please.
But also nerf Ret Paladin, just because they're Ret Paladins. You guys should form a Mythic Plus group right now. One of you heals the key with Feral Heart of the Wild. I don't know about that. I mean, we have Snupy. I know that we've planned to do some Feral Druid Mythic Plus, and we're gonna do like a triple Feral key. I know we've got that kind of planned at some point, but we gotta get to it eventually. But apart from that, I don't know if we're gonna do a full Feral. Also, Hippos on NA, so like there's that whole thing that exists. But yeah.
And I'm bad at PvE, so that's also the thing.
Nah, man, dude, PvE is just experience. Like you go into a key, it's just knowing what does what and like knowing when you can use your cooldowns. It's all experience. You don't even have to have a brain, trust me.
Sai does play PvE, so it's yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If I play PvE, then it must be easy. Mason, welcome in, dude. Primal Wrath baseline, yes or no? If yes, what kind of talent to add in that row, and can this help Feral in Mythic Plus? That's a good question. Guilty, why don't you start us off? And I'm gonna be really rude. I have to BRB 30 seconds, but Maystine, go. Hit me with that Primal Wrath.
I will take it over, dude. Yeah, the talent row is broken. The talent row is intended to be an AoE specific talent row where you've got 3 options based on AoE, but at the moment you've got 1 option based on AoE and 1 option based on single target. So yes, make it baseline. Yes, put some kind of swipe oriented talent in there. I don't know, like Wild Flesh Rending that applies to swipe. That'd be fine. Basically anything.
God, dude. I miss Wild Flesh Rending.
Or alternatively, delete that entire talent row, make it a utility talent row, move Brutal Slash to the last tier of talents to replace Moment of Clarity, and buff Brutal Slash. I think that's actually what I'd do.
That's a lot of things.
I think that is my solution for that row. But yes, I think Primal Wrath should be baseline.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a problem. But like, what would you... Dude, that would be so bad for my keybinds, actually, if that happened.
Oh my gosh,
I don't think that's good anymore, actually.
Shut up. What about Mark the Wild for all Druid specs? I think that would be fine, but the problem is that Balanced Druid and Resto Druid exist.
Doesn't Mark of the Wild exist in the game as a Resto PvP talent?
Yeah, it's Resto PvP talent.
It's like resistance or something.
It reduces damage over time from nature, shadow, fire, whatever, all that.
Wow. That's not very interesting.
Are there any other interesting questions here? So I actually wanted to talk to you, Snupy. What are you looking forward? Because they specifically said they're reworking PvP talents in 9.1. What do you want? What do you want from PvP talent reworked?
Like, I think it would be kind of, Basement was also saying in chat, like some form of MS effect for Feral, like on something. We could spec into it. I don't know, maybe it would be kind of out of place, but could be nice. I don't really know. Like I do like the current talents though. Like Strength of the Wild is a lot of fun. Just spam Regroves and yeah, I don't know. Thorns is nice too. Honestly, like them making clone baseline, kind of
so much choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Like for me,
are there any current talents that you want removed?
Some of them feel like pretty useless. They actually added like high winds. You do like but that one I've never played. It feels so some of them like I forget the names even. That's how like little that I've even looked at them.
Rip and Tear, dude.
Yeah, Rip and Tear. Like I feel like some of them could be like reworked to just be more viable. That'd be nice. But yeah, overall it's like nice choice now. You play like Leader, Thorns, Savage Mentiment is super nice too.
Yep.
And yeah, no, it's good, honestly.
Good. With friends about Winter spam Thresh and AoE during Berserk. Probably like 40 targets or something. I'm pretty sure you just basically wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing with Frenzy Band as well is that like it scales everything at the same rate, right? So like if you're using Frenzy Band, you're still gonna. If you're raking without Frenzy Band, you're still gonna rake with Frenzy Band, surely. But yeah, with the Primal Wrath thing, I thought that was so. I wanted to kind of circle back around to that really quick. Sorry, I had to go AFK chat. I think that's an interesting talent row, right? So like I don't necessarily think that, like you were saying, Guilty. I mean, you like Primal Wrath is the AoE option, right? So like if you made it baseline, you would just add in some pretty like what would you add there in its place? It would just kind of be some whatever effect. I think Primal Wrath is a really good AoE ability because you don't need it on single target, so you can specifically take it for AoE. But I think something like Scent of Blood needs to get just removed, changed, altered in some way. But I just think that like that's the real issue there, because I think Brutal Slash does well in Cleave. I think Primal Wrath does well in AoE, and I think Primal Wrath is just a really nice ability to have. But Scent of Blood is...
I think the big thing is that row is intended to be the AoE talent row. So originally it was added back in Uldir so that you could pick AoE without having to sacrifice single target. And it works. It worked okay, but it's basically Primal Wrath is such a strong AoE ability, and it will always be such a strong AoE ability just because of the way it's designed, that it's basically gone from being an AoE talent row to is this a single target or is it an AoE fight? And you don't lose a lot from not taking Brutal Slash, which is fine. Because the problem before was that you used to lose a lot to go Brutal Slash. Or use a lot to go AoE. I think that's fine. But as I said before, I think that talent rows are specifically better if they're utility focused. So what I would do is, I think Moment of Clarity is a bad talent. I mean, I don't think it's the worst talent on the 3, but I think it's a bad talent. So I'd put Brutal Slash there, buff it to be... more like Nighthold Brutal Slash, and then I'd just make Primal Wrath baseline and make a utility row. Like maybe you put move Renewal out of the row it's in currently, the Tiger's Dash Wild Charge row, and you add Cenarian Ward and Hippo. You played in Ward. What was the name of the talent that put Rejuve on multiple? Well, you put Nature's Vigil there.
Nature's Vigil?
Nature's Vigil, which is an old talent whereby it converted some of the damage you dealt to healing. Kind of like
Trent's Pog. Could put Trent's there, couldn't it? Yeah.
And then you put Renewal, Cenarian Ward, Nature's Vigil or something there.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do with talents. Like I think every class has this problem where they have one talent row that is just so unbelievably burdened by just this broken talent, like Sabretooth for Feral is the thing I can think of. And like you even spec out a Sabretooth sometimes, but like the damage loss from like Predator or Li to Sabretooth is like ridiculous, right? Like I think there's so many things you could do to Feral talents to make them like healthier for the game, and just like buff them directly. And I it's one of those things is like, as someone who like obviously I don't care about like class balancing because like I'm never gonna be doing it. I'm not working at Blizzard, but from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, this is such an easy change to make. Why don't they change it? And it's like, well, why don't they change it is my question. And I don't know.
You were starting there and I was like, oh, where's he gonna go with this? And you're like, no, seriously, like what?
I will play Blizzard to fix their fucking classes. Just reach out to me, guys.
I don't know, man. I mean, Blizzard at the moment, they're going through some turmoil. They're firing everyone and then giving out 200 mil bonuses. So I mean, who knows who's still left to design?
I will pay Blizzard to be able to fix their class.
Yeah. We'll pay a guy. I do wonder, like, you do look at Feral and you do just think there are some very glaring issues. Like you say, we could look at some talents which we could absolutely, kind of just remove or revamp or whatever, or move around a little bit. And there do just seem to be like some issues of, Trents and Innovate, whatever, Leader of the Pack. Seems to just be some really clear, obvious things that they could just do. They could just spit out in an afternoon and it wouldn't be an issue. And it just kind of makes you think, why not? And this is where I would love to have more communication with the devs on understanding what their design philosophy is with each spec, what they're trying to achieve, and whether they're happy and comfortable with the position that they're at. One thing that blows my mind, and I will get to some of the questions in chat as well, though, is like, the whole swipe target cap thing is just, that absolutely boggles my mind, because swipe is now like, you use swipe on 2 targets because you managed to get your rake on both of them, so then you start swiping with any remainder energy and whatever to generate combo points. But then as soon as you get to like mass AoE, you play in circles, so you just rake spread. You just like don't even swipe, and it's like, why am I not swiping at 10 targets? Like, you know, I mean, obviously you do to generate blood tons, so still like you're not doing it, but it's like not your high priority, and it just seems like so weird with how this AoE camp has affected us, and obviously that's affected MOC as well, and it just seems really strange that that's a thing. But yeah.
Yo, Hippo, most important question for you. What's your cat's name?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That one, it's Ninja.
Nice.
He lives on my bed. He's never not on my bed. He sleeps in one of the 4 corners, and that's all he does.
I'm gonna be honest, I can see him. He's not a very good ninja, but
Well, I named him when I was like literally 12, so what can you do?
So last year.
last year,
Last year, by the way.
got him.
That was me all time too, man.
Can you ask Guilty what his thoughts are on the imposter buffs? I don't.
That is a friend.
Oh, okay, cool. And then Jimmy saying, what do you think of owl weaving? So we did kind of touch on owl weaving in general. We all said, like, I mean, we discussed it, and it can be a bit finicky. We won't kind of really go over it, I guess, because we already touched on it, but it can be a bit finicky. You can't obviously interrupt to do a lot of your utility when you're weaving. It's only a minor DPS increase. I think, what were you guys actually, what was the consensus? Are you guys glad that it exists, but you think it could be, like, improved, or do you want it removed?
I think it could be improved, but I've been campaigning for it to be deleted since like week 1 of the expansion. So
I don't think it should be a thing, but it is interesting that it's somehow a thing. It also just like doesn't matter if you're like someone who's like, oh, I don't want to owl weave. It literally doesn't matter. You don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a very minor thing. I think it adds effort to Feral. That like I think Feral is already a high effort spec. I don't necessarily mean that it's hard. I just mean that it's like high effort. And I think then you add owl weaving, which means that it adds more complexity, and then it doesn't feel like you're getting the payoff from that complexity, and I think that's an issue. So I think either make it really worth your while or remove it completely, so it, at least like you don't feel like you have to do it if you don't want to. This is for Guilty. As a TC, how much better? Oh, as a theory crafter, how much better Necro would have to be over Night Fae before it would be worth playing? Do you have a number, Guilty?
So I answered that one in the chat. It's a really hard one to answer because there's not like a solid amount. I think personally, my gut feeling is that I think it would have to be like 5 to 10% better for the loss in the damage profile, and even that, I'd probably go Necrolord at 5 to 10% better. But I do think that Feral would be a worse spec as a raid choice. I think I'd enjoy it more potentially. I kind of didn't like Adaptive Swarm and PTR, so it's hard to say whether I enjoy it more. I enjoy the damage profile more, but I think it would be a worse spec. You'd probably go it, but it would be a worse spec.
I mean, the issue with Necrolord is that it doesn't scale at all in AoE. Like, there's absolutely... At least Convoke does, like, will do stuff in AoE.
Okay.
Necro does... Yeah, go on.
Getting on my soapbox a little bit here. Okay,
Yeah.
It's called Adaptive Swarm. In what universe does a swarm only affect a single target? Like...
Yeah.
Have they ever seen a swarm of bees and it's just like the swarm of bees is just like this one dude in particular? Fuck him.
Man.
No, bees are AoE, right? If you get a swarm
Bees
of
are
bees, they're
AoE?
just
I don't know.
fucking
Bees
everything up.
AoE?
Like,
bees are AoE.
why does the swarm affect one target? It makes so much sense for the adaptive swarm to affect like everything in a range around whatever they're hitting. Like that makes so much sense. Why doesn't it do that?
Well, you know
make
what,
Adaptive
Guilty?
Swarm give
Off my
you
soapbox.
cleave bites, dude.
Bees are dying out, dude. It's a message. Global warming, right? We're not looking after the environment. The bees are dying.
Yep.
Too many pesticides. People need to start eating organic, right? Like,
The
bees are
swarm has
dying.
been reduced to a singular bee.
Exactly. It's a campaign. It's actually going to be the next. I think after they're done with the Doctors Without Borders, I think Blizzard's going to go on some kind of bee saving escapade. What did you say, Hippo? You said bees should do bite.
Oh no!
Please?
So
What?
I have this idea. There's this like idea I love, just like messing with the Moonkin TC people, that Adaptive Swarm should give you AoE star surges. And
Oh, God.
I think you could do it with Pharaoh too. Like, why not? Like, every target affected by the Adaptive Swarm, because like you can get multiple out, because it is like a. I don't actually know the duration, but I know it's a 45-second cooldown with 3 stacks, and like each time it ticks down, it just spreads. But like every target affected by your swarm also gets hit by your bite, or like for Moonkin Star Surge, like stuff like that. I think would be like the only interesting thing you could buff about Adaptive Swarm without just like tuning it numbers wise to make it good, because like it is a pretty boring covenant. It does practically nothing for your gameplay.
I think, I mean, people have been mentioning things like, oh, what if there was like a talent, or like during Berserk your ferocious bite hit an AoE and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of like in a similar vein to what you're saying there, Hippo. I think that could be, it's one of those things where it's like how do you figure out what idea is good? Because it's just kind of like you could just tune adaptive swarm so that it does 2000% damage what it currently does, and it just absolutely slaps, and who cares if it doesn't do AoE, just pop.
Yeah.
Like you could tune shit however you want. Like you could add in anything. So it's like, what do you actually kind of want to add in? But yeah,
You
I
can
think
make anything good, really.
yeah, you can make anything good. Exactly. You could make thrash spamming on single target good if you really wanted to. If you tuned it up enough,
I mean,
Dude, Shadow Thrash, dude, let me tell you.
That
Shadow
actually
Thrash
was
was
a
cool.
thing.
It was a thing. It was a thing.
Yeah, there you go.
You can 100% make Scent of Blood good.
What about
I'm
Venthyr
gonna-
though?
Venthyr?
You can make
Yeah,
Venthyr
God.
good
No,
as well.
Venthyr is
You would
dead.
have the
like,
amount
no.
of effort into making Venthyr good would be so. It would be the like the amount of dev time needed to make an expansion.
Okay,
man.
okay. I will literally make Venthyr good right now.
I mean, you
Okay.
should have.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Beta Ravenous Thirst.
Oh, where it just stacked infinitely.
Wait,
Yeah, was that where it was
servers
like
were awful?
bugged and you got
No,
20%
the one
per
where it
stack?
gave 20% per stack.
Yeah, 20%
Oh,
per stack. Yeah.
Venthyr
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah,
You
20%
can't
per
make Scent
stack.
of Blood good, someone says in the chat. The way you make Scent of Blood good is you add an additional effect to Scent of Blood, and you say any swipes affected by Scent of Blood do 300% damage, 500% damage, 1000% damage. Bam,
A
Scent of Blood is good.
1,000,000%
I mean,
damage.
dude,
you heard
you're
it
throwing
here,
out these
folks.
like dumb numbers like 500%, but that literally there is a Demon Hunter talent
Right.
that got buffed by 300% this
Yeah.
patch.
Yeah, but I
It
mean,
does.
that-
It
that's
does.
the
If you
point,
read the
right?
talent, it does 600% damage. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I don't-
600%.
You can make anything good. It just requires adding a stupid number to it.
Yeah.
Nothing
Absolutely.
is untunable. Everything is tunable. It just requires you putting.
It
stupid
just
numbers
won't
on
be
things.
tuned. That's all you. That's all you
Like-
need to know.
Yeah.
Anything is tunable, but it won't be tuned.
Yeah,
what
like
is
that's the thing. There's no excuse for not fixing it because you just can fix things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can change it in an afternoon. I think the one thing I'm very against is the idea of aura buffs, right? Like just like a flat, like everything is affected by 10%, 20%, right? I really would like Blizzard to, because what I was looking at was buffing Feral, but we're already strong in Raid, we're already strong in PvP. I don't think we necessarily like. And Snupy, I don't know if you feel like PvP needs a buff or not, but I don't think we particularly like need a buff in either of those scenarios. But Mythic Plus, I feel like we could stand to get one, and then it's a case of like buffing things that wouldn't affect us in PvP or in Raid, which would be affecting things like Swipe or potentially Thrash or like Primal Wrath on hit damage or something like that. Those are like the only ways I think you could really do it without affecting Raid or PvP, but.
I feel like they probably will just like, if anything, I think they was buff it, overall, and this kind of how I felt it, like with buffs or nerfs is that I kind of feel like at the mercy of how Feral's performing in PvE quite often, and like
Yeah.
we see this in PvP, they'll buff a class in PvE that's like already really good in PvP, and then they just don't really care. I don't know. I mean, they probably care. They just don't. I don't know if they care actually. Like sometimes some of the
I mean-
changes that happens like do seem a bit out of place. I guess like warriors, let's say Arms Warriors, they buffed Arms Warriors and Handsome Shamans like recently. I'm like they're not OP, I would say, but like Turbo Cleave it was already very very strong, and then it becomes even stronger. And I guess maybe they weren't performing in PvE, but then they start.
But that's again down to the fact that they did an aura buff, right? So an aura buff is going to affect them in every piece of content on every ability, whereas like they probably could have done something to affect warriors in PvE
Yeah.
without impacting PvP,
Like,
but they do these
do you
lazy
think-
buffs.
Yeah. I would like to see like more, but that's a problem. Like I feel like they always just do these buffs that
Affect
both,
everything. Yeah.
both things. Yeah, and
No, they've been quite lazy with tuning, which is a shame. It used to be the case that they would buff things like individually, but now they just don't.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, like, I'll be happy if Frog gets a PvE buff and it seeps over in PvP, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's not a good thing.
Just
of
take the
course-
buffs you can take. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take it if it happens, but overall, it would be better if they did more specific stuff.
Yeah, it used
For
to be a thing
sure.
that didn't happen, but yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
Somebody said, what is the chance you guys think that ferals will see change / buff in 9.1? I think like 60% chance ferals will see a change in 9.1.
How much of a change? Maybe like some very, very
I'm
minor
not
thing.
specifying. I'm not specifying. Any change?
A little Venter buff, maybe.
I think we'll get
yeah.
buffed, but well, it depends. I think they'll probably just add some systems or something. Like we'll get more conduit and we'll get more conduits and a couple more soul binds, and like that will be.
We already
a buff.
know we're getting like empowered conduits or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cheating. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we will like obviously improve, but like so is everyone else, right? So everyone else is going to get a similar, like all other classes and specs are going to get a similar buff. In terms of will Feral get a specific buff? I honestly, I used to think like quite positively. I don't think so. I don't think Blizzard either realizes there's a problem with Feral or they don't care. I think at that point, like I don't.
I am maybe cheating slightly, but I think there is a very good chance that we get changes that result in a buff.
Okay. I'll take that, and I won't ask further. Guilty. I won't ask further, but I will take that. Okay, so potential changes that add a buff. Okay. Yeah. What about you guys, Hippo, Snupy? What do you guys think about that one?
For Feral, like right now, if Feral was going to be good, like, and I was going to play it over Balance in a raid, it wouldn't even be that much. It would like literally be like 5 to 10%, right? Which, like, I guess as an aura buff, that's a lot. Well, I don't know. They've buffed Demon Hunter like 20% this expansion alone, so maybe it isn't. And usually Feral does get aura buffed like every patch because it's like underperforming, and it hasn't done that this expansion to my knowledge, if I remember correctly. But it wouldn't take much to boost Feral up into like bottom tier. So I am curious to see.
Very little, yeah.
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 I think it's right on the edge of being there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think it should have been a progress pick this tier.
Yeah, people are sleeping on it, huh? People are sleeping on it. Yeah,
like PvP wise though, like for this, I think I don't know like what change like would have to happen, but like it like the meta's already changed now with the small like Necrolord buff. Like I think like maybe in like a month's time, most Ferals is gonna play Necrolord, and yeah, like it's like 3 swipes and like 2 swipes, like it's gonna keep changing, just like on other things getting buffed and nerfed. You know, like some class getting nerfed can be a buff to Feral indirectly. So if they nerf intervene, like war intervene, that could be a very good thing for us, you know. So I think Feral's pretty fine. Yeah, I hate it. Actually, like Feral's nice right now. I just think they should like maybe tune some other classes a bit, and then we'll be in an even better spot, arena wise. But yeah.
I actually think Feral is very well balanced. I think it's very clean. Like I think it's very like tightly balanced. I think just there are some other things that are like way too good, or you know, like whatever. But I think Feral is actually pretty nicely balanced across the board. Nothing is really too out of whack. There's no one thing that is way too strong or anything. And I think we're actually decently placed. I just think everything else is kind of a bit too strong. Jace, I think that'll be the final question. If you guys are happy, unless it was literally like, if there was anything else you guys want to talk about, I'm happy to do that. But if you guys are cool, we can wrap up on this last question. How do you feel you want to talk about what? Sorry.
No, I said I'll talk for however long you want.
Yeah, I know you will, man. Which I like it. But yeah, I should probably be fair to Hippo. It's like probably what, 2 o'clock. He needs to go have a nap, man. He's
Listen, it's fine.
But
such generate.
I feel like it's perfectly acceptable to wake up at 9 p.m. and you guys are just being mean to me.
I mean, it's a gamer schedule, man. It's a gamer schedule.
I start raid at 9 p.m. I should be able to wake up at 8:30 and not be harassed. Okay.
You're right. We will not harass you in your own home. But Jace is saying, how do you feel the range meta in Mythic Plus is affecting Feral at the moment? Would they have a spot in the 3 melee meta? Is it hard to get that 1 melee spot? I mean, I think in general, and I'll take from you guys as well, we did kind of discuss a little bit. I think in general, ranged are pretty good this tier. Just because of the way that Mythic Plus is designed. Last expansion, there were you needed a lot of control, so having regular interrupts and like stuns and all that kind of stuff was very useful. I think this this expansion, not so much. It's not as required. There aren't as many deadly like spell casts and stuff that need to be interrupted. So you're kind of seeing this more like ranged heavy comp, plus ranged are doing really well in DPS. In terms of Feral being like up there in terms of a mythic plus melee spec, I don't know what you guys think. I think Windwalker does really well. I think Warrior does well, and we'll probably see a bit of Havoc. And Rogue is like really good because of the utility. I don't think Feral's quite got enough, unless you literally didn't have a Druid in the group. I don't think you would bring a Feral like Hippo was kind of saying. But what do you guys think?
I don't think that it would be the choice in a 3 mana meta.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If only melee were allowed to do keys, that's like a really interesting concept. I think the comp would be Fury Warrior, DHX would be like you'd auto include the Fury
There'd be a
Warrior, auto
Windwalker in
include
there
the
because
DH.
physical damage.
Yeah, you'd probably probably go
I mean,
Fury,
it's one of those
Windwalker,
things,
and
like,
Rogue, right? Maybe.
There's always going to be like these auto include if there's like restrictions on anything, and like classes being the way they are, and like it's impossible to balance a game for all forms of content. Like say Arms Warriors, like the gods of PvP with Arms Warrior and Keys sucks, you play Fury. It's like stuff like that. But in a pure melee meta, I don't even think Feral has a spot, just because, I mean, you have to take a healer, so you just make your healer play Resto Druid because you need Druid utility, right? But that is an interesting concept of like pure melee. You could bring a Feral for sure. I don't.
You could definitely bring one. I think it would be viable. It wouldn't be optimal though.
I mean, I think you can bring Feral now. It's just
Exactly.
I mean, I said this earlier. If anyone has like wasn't here, but like currently the meta is like tank healer, fire mage, moonkin. You have to have those 2 DPS specs in your key to like push the highest keys, and then the third slot can be whatever. Just happens to be rogue right now because that's what people think is good. I think it'll slowly evolve into like Havoc, Windwalker, stuff like that. I mean, people are already playing Windwalker, but yeah, that is an interesting concept.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool. Right. Well, I think, gentlemen, we will call it a day there. That's been just over 2 hours. I want to be fair to you guys, and I don't want to take up too much more of your evening. Snoopy, I know that after this, we've got some PvP planned. Is that still going on? Or you...
Could do a little bit. I might have to go eat some food kind of soon.
Dude, if you've got a dip, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can talk after this briefly.
Tomorrow or like some
Hey, let's do it tomorrow, my king. Don't stress. All right? You get your vegetables in. You grow up big and strong. All right.
Yes,
but yeah, all right, we'll call it a day there in a moment. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and of course those donations that came in. We managed to raise like £30 today, which is great. That'll be going at 2 Panthera. So thank you to Reaction Cutie and Flev. Very, very sweet of you. Though I think technically that 10 was I mean, they were praising Snoopy with that. So thank you for that, Snoopy. Thank you for working it. Thank you for working it for the cats, man.
I'm not gonna take any praise for that. It was all reaction.
But yeah, Hippo, thank you very much for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Nice to finally put a face to a name and a name to a face. Guilty, of course. I mean, we always, you're a regular kind of a regular spot here, so good to see you, man. And Snoopy, thank you as well for being on.
Pleasure,
anything you guys want to say before you go? You can obviously, like, if you want to plug your own streams or like anything, feel free. Hippo, I'll start with you, man. We'll work out. Just say goodbye if you want to. It's all good.
Am I just saying goodbye? That's it? Is that all I'm doing? Like,
I mean, just if you wanna, I mean, I was gonna say, look, I'll call out your stream
my Twitch
for you,
and
dude.
Twitter, like Hippos are neat. It's somewhere in the stream, I assume, probably.
Actually, Hippo,
mostly high keys as balanced druid, unfortunately, but I do dabble in the Feral Druid pug life. But yeah, that's about it, I guess.
I was gonna ask actually, Hippo, can you do me a favor? Can you actually, because you like hippos so much and because you think hippos neat, can you actually give us a fun hippo fact? Do you have one for us?
See, I don't actually know much about hippos, believe it or not.
Fake fan, huh?
You can see all these like stuffed animals, whatever. I do collect them randomly. I don't even remember why I started collecting them, but that is why hippo's my name. They don't actually sweat, I guess. Is a hippo fact. It's like something.
Oh, going in right with the sexy one. Okay.
Yeah.
They also can't swim and don't float.
Yeah. Hippos are extremely dangerous as well. I think they're like the most dangerous animal in Africa, like killing people wise.
Yeah.
because they're extremely territorial. There's a hippo fact for you, I guess.
Yeah, don't mess with hippos or hippo.
That
Don't
wasn't
mess
a
with
fun
either of them.
fact.
Yeah, that was not a fun fact.
You got the fact part. You missed the fun part.
I mean, it's probably fun for the hippo, I guess. But yeah, Guilty, anything you want to say to people before you go? I don't know if you got anything. But
I barely stream, so don't bother with that. If anyone wants to, you can go to Hippo's stream and you can ask him why he's playing Kyrian.
There you go.
But apart from that, I'm in a few different places. I'm sure everyone knows where I am, so I'm chilling.
Oh, for sure. And Snoopy, what about you, man? I mean, I've thrown your link in the chat for you as well, dude.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. If anyone wants to watch some Feral Arena, that's basically it. Yeah, just play Arena all day.
Yeah, like the 8th highest Feral in the world. Man's gaming.
Yeah, there you go.
Am I? I didn't know that. Hell yeah.
I think you're pretty up there.
Yeah, for sure. You got like 6 druids as well, so one of them's got to be high, right? You play it enough, you got to be up there. But
true. I mean, I got many games played.
Oh yeah, actually, that's a funny story. What Flappy was talking about, Snoopy. I was looking at your keys, dude. I was looking because I was checking out your character, and I couldn't remember what I was looking at. I was trying to find one of your characters, and I found you because I think we were talking about us potentially doing keys or whatever. So I was looking at your character, and you literally have 7 Raider IO score. You have 7. It is single. Like, how do you have more than 0 and less than 10? How do you do that?
Okay, so what happened? It was like there was a quest like early season where we had to do 4 dungeons to get like 213 gear. And me and my 3's partner tried doing it, like my healer, and we joined a +2 just to get it done fast. And we ended up being stuck there for like 2 hours almost.
Oh, God.
The tank, okay, but I can explain. Like the tank, he thought like the mobs would just go away if you ran far enough. So he kept running into the whole dungeon and kept pulling the whole dungeon. And I think he thought they would just like go away if you ran far enough. And then he kept doing it over and over, tried telling him. But he was Russian, I think. He didn't know English.
He was Russian somewhere, apparently. He was zooming, dude.
And he keeps going in and then yeah, it was just so we failed the +2, and like every time I open my tab, it's like there's just a 2 there. But I did get ran through a 15 plague fall to kind of bump it away. So now it's gone. So now I've one like dungeon completed. Like it's a.
You don't have that stain on your name anymore. I respected it. I was impressed by the 7 IO score. I thought that was pretty cool. But all right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for being on. It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to the 9.1. Hopefully, we have another catch up then in about 6 years when that finally releases, or September time. But
you found the run. What the?
What's out there, man? It's historical evidence. All right, guys, I'm gonna hang up the call. Take it easy. Thanks for being on.
GG's.
All right, peace.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, for sure.